Hi, Princess.
What now, Ice King?
Remember that time last summer when you said you'd only go out on a date with me if I was the last guy on Ooh?
I doubt I said that.
The computer went.
Open video and
The email.
data trampoline.
Window with the plastic.
Then crash, but
Banana hummingbird.
47 grapes.
Anyone having any computer problems?
How do we stop that computer worm, you pile of goo?
My worm exists beyond your comprehension within the universal source code.
Stop talking like a nerd and give it to us straight!
Once the glitch does its work, the whole world will be deleted, except for me and my bubbly gums.
Welcome to Gimmicks, a podcast about the high-concept, experimental, structure-breaking gimmick episodes of TV, from musicals to bottle episodes to a glitchy shift in art style. I'm Derek B. Gale.
My face, my perfect face. It's David Arnold, and who is with us here today?
With Derek and David, and sometimes Tommy, we're recording a Gimmicks pod. I messed this up.
Nope, it's perfect. You know what? I think that living at the edge of sort of campy high art, but a little cringe, is exactly where we're going to find ourselves talking about this episode, because we are here talking about the animated series Adventure Time with the episode A Glitch is a Glitch.
Yes, if you are not familiar with Adventure Time, it is an animated series created by Pendleton Ward and co-produced by Frederator Studios for Cartoon Network, aired for 283 episodes over 10 seasons from April 2010 to September 2018, with some follow-ups that have happened since then as well. The series follows the adventures of a boy named Finn and his best friend / dog named Jake, a colorful cast of characters often made of candy as they interact with in the fantastical land of Ooh. Certainly weirder than that description, but that's kind of the best way to put it, I would say. But yeah, Tommy, you brought this show to us.
What a gift.
What's your history with Adventure Time?
I did, and I just have to say, my whole intention was to sing. They do like adaptations of the song every now and again. I don't know if y'all have watched any of the episodes where the song shifts. And so I decided at the last minute to do that. Up until the point when I actually started singing, I had something else in mind.
Incredible.
And then I just felt moved. And so I did that, and it just didn't work. So anyway.
Well, it's fine.
I'm Tommy the Human. Yeah, my history with Adventure Time. Okay, here's the deal. I was thinking about this. Like, I was watching episodes. I spent this past week literally trying to watch through the entire show again. Didn't get through everything, but I got through a lot of the things that I wanted to get through.
You didn't get through all 283 episodes?
No, no. But this has been everything I've been consuming of the past week or so. And I did all of that, and then I was like, oh, shoot, they're going to ask me what my history with the show is, and I don't actually remember when I started watching.
My God. Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure, because it started in 2010, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we were in college. I'm pretty certain that I started watching this while we were in college. Maybe I started watching an episode or two. I don't remember who introduced me to it.
Yeah.
But it was
you definitely did, because I remember watching it in college too, and I feel we had groups of people that would watch random ones together sometimes. But yeah, I don't know where it who figured out to start watching it.
truly, and it's this show that it kind of it fits into this perfect niche in my brain that it hits so many notes of everything that I love. And I think that's part of the reason why we would just start watching random episodes of it, because it is very out there. It is very silly. It has this vibe of I don't know, some of the stuff that we grew up watching and grew up with that is heavily influential on the show itself. And so I think it just it just stuck with me, and it just tickled me to bits, and it's stuck with me ever since. I actually have a Jake the Dog tattoo that was like a more recent tattoo that I had gotten, but it was just something that like I had been ruminating on for a long time. It's actually, I'll finish this line of thought really quick, but it's actually not a Jake the Dog tattoo, even though that's what it looks like, because it's based on an episode that takes place in the dream world. And it actually is a different character who is Jake the Dog. It is the Worm King, who is pretending to be Jake the Dog in that moment, but it's Jake the Dog and he's melting and he just says everything's fine. Or everything's normal, rather. But anyway, yes, I love this show.
It's a great tattoo. And like a great idea for a tattoo too, just in general.
Oh my gosh.
Here it
Oh my
is.
gosh, it's
Yeah.
so much
Pretty
bigger than you audience, I'm seeing it with my own eyes, and however big you thought a tattoo of Jake the Dog melting would be on a man's arm, this was a larger version than you are imagining.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
so good.
I had been like, I saw like a GIF of that and I was like, I need that on my body. I don't know how to get it in GIF form on my body. And the tattoo artist couldn't figure that out either, unfortunately, but it's on a movable part of my arm. So it kind of, you know, it can move a little bit, I guess.
Wow. Very, very Pete and Pete, sexy lady dancing.
Yeah, exactly.
Derek, what about you? What is your experience with the animated program Adventure Time?
Yeah, I also was watching it in college at the same time, but I also don't really remember like where it came from. It was one of those things I do think I feel like it made a significant splash, like if you were in the sort of animation TV world at the time. So I feel like it probably was just sort of naturally, if you were paying attention to anything, any cartoons that were coming out, Adventure Time would just be in the conversation, because I think it was standing out as being so different and so imaginative and like appealing to like a really specific like 2010 sensibility that I think was sort of new at the time, I guess. Like, cause then, you know, immediately after it, you would start getting stuff like Adventure Time, or not Adventure Time. You would start getting stuff like Regular Show and Steven Universe that were like very different, but also still in the same sort of zone with the type of like sort of surrealist, absurdist like comedy they would throw in that were still mixed with like character centric and lore centric storytelling. Like all of that stuff was kind of around the same time and we're sort of in that same area, and share a lot of the same creators too in some cases. So I think that like that kind of stuff was just, if you were interested in TV and cartoons at the time, you would watch it. And so I think that's probably why we just watched it, because it sounded and looked cool. But I was very off and on and casual with it. I didn't like there's a certain point in the show when it becomes like a lot more serialized and has multi-parters and stuff. I didn't stick with it through all of that stuff like concurrently. I don't remember how long ago it was now, but like years ago, I think maybe like just a few years after, I guess it would have been around maybe like right after or around the time that it ended, or was ending. I was watching a lot of it with the intention to catch up, to watch through it to the ending. But I fell off of it, you know, a few seasons into it. So I still have only really seen consistently maybe like the first four and a half or so seasons. Like I've probably seen every episode from those years, but like the show runs for much longer after that and changes a lot after that. And I haven't seen a lot of the later stuff, even though I kind of know a lot of the gist of things that were happening with it. And always had the intention to go back to it because it's really good, but I think I would just have to start over from the beginning. And that's, you know, it becomes a little bit overwhelming when it's like, well, time to start this 10 season, 283 episode show over again to watch all of it. But
honestly, I would say you could pick up at like season 5, which is still a lot, but like you could pick up at season 5 and continue on, and not really like I that's kind of was where I kind of picked up my rewatch for prepping for the podcast.
Sure.
And I think you get most of the details that you really need, because the show in its early years is like, it is a different thing, like especially that first season. It's so different going back and rewatching like some of those early episodes versus what the show eventually becomes. And I just got to say the finale is so, I just rewatched it again this morning. It's so good. Like it's like hard to like watch that and not like get kind of teary, because they do such a good job with how they kind of close it up. But then they open it back up again like right after because they have Distant Lands and then Fiona and Cake. So
yeah, there is a lot of media associated with this cartoon. So it did become very important for me to parse that I was just looking for Adventure Time, because there are spin-off video games, there are spin-off series. There was a film that I guess was a pretty big deal very recently, or like a 4-part thing on Max.
No, that was just Distant Lands.
Okay, Distant Lands is
4-part miniseries. Yeah, that was like the sequel show to it.
I do believe there has been discussions, and I don't know where it's at now, but I think there have been discussions of a movie, but maybe that's what ended up spinning into Distant Lands. I don't quite recall. But
you're right. I think it was like a movie and TV shows were sort of all announced at the same time, but like only the TV stuff has been what's actually happened. So movie may or may not still be in development right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it is dense. I mean, there's a lot there, and it does spin into this thing. And something that's super interesting about it, and part of it is, I think, because of the DNA of the show, is like little tiny things that you think are inconsequential end up becoming important later on. And it's kind of fascinating how that works. And I know we'll get into like some of the, background of the show and stuff like that, but because it's so influenced by Dungeons and Dragons, I think that's a huge thing where it's like in a D&D party, and this is something I think that sticks with me with this show too, is like you'll have things in a tabletop RPG experience where it's like, that was just something the DM was throwing at you that was so random and like wasn't intended to be important, but the players just latch onto it, and it becomes like, now you have adopted this character into your party and you're going on an adventure with them. Like that kind of stuff is how this show feels some of the times. Yeah,
I think that is a big appeal of it, and like things like it, like this and like Steven Universe was sort of the same way, where it's sort of like you don't like a lot of stuff that seems like, oh, they're just doing things because it looks funny and is imaginative, and then it's like this thing in the background, probably some weird joke, and then it's sort of like, no, there actually is a pretty intricately built world of lore and history, and there is like actually a reason for a lot of the weird shit that's happening that like doesn't need to be explained. You can watch all of this and it's just like silly cartoon humor, but the fact that like they eventually delve into that and it becomes like important, like I think that was really eye-opening and appealing to people, like, and that's why these types of shows were really hooking them at the time, because I don't know that we really had, like, we've had cartoons that were very funny and silly and weird and absurdist. We have cartoons that are very densely serialized and like lore heavy. We've never really, I don't think until Adventure Time we really had that weird cross section of like, you don't realize actually how deep this lore goes. And not only is it just sort of like secretly behind the scenes in our series Bible, we have that, but like it actually gets delved into and becomes the show to explore the history of it and the weird complexities of these characters that stemmed from what you thought was just That's So Random style humor. Like that is pretty cool, and such a cool evolution of like the That's So Random style humor that was prevalent in the like 2000s.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so for my part, the both of you can't remember when you started engaging with this, but I have a very clear memory because it was about 120 hours ago. And I only know that because I sent a text to Derek asking him if there was an optimal level of high to be while watching this program, because that was the vibe that I was getting. I asked both of you for advice on where I should start this journey. You both had wonderful recommendations. I ignored them and started with episode 1, and then had to admit to Derek that he was right and that maybe I should have taken his advice. I did watch through I'm going to get this wrong, Enchiridion? Yeah, thank you. Enchiridion, because I did obviously see in my research that this was like the retooled pitch episode that eventually got this to sell to Cartoon Network, and I did want to like see what that was. And that is where like they famously say Adventure Time, a phrase that gets repeated in the episode that we're here to talk about. So I ended up watching almost 25 episodes when it was all said and done.
Oh, wow.
Just across. I did not go past this one that we're at because I've now gotten in trouble for watching cartoons past the discussion date. So I'm not doing that again.
Sorry.
No. I can't do it. My brain is so malleable. But I did watch some great ones, including this is a series in which I think gimmicks could do 20, 30 episodes, frankly.
So many, yeah.
So at Tommy's recommendation, I did cover the Noir episode, probably like the noiriest noir that I've ever seen, because it really was so paint by numbers noir. But absurdist, which then was really fun because it's Adventure Time. And I watched some just standard episodes. I watched a couple of the arcs that you all mentioned that were more serialized because they were on recommendations from the subreddit, which is very active to this day, and are filled with a different type of fan than I think the three of us are coming into this. So I don't know. I had a lot of fun. I probably won't revisit this series again. I don't think that I'll be watching every episode. I
was telling Tommy, I was sort of like, I don't think this is going to be a David show at all. I don't think he's going to be that into this.
It's not. You know what's interesting is that when I saw beyond that's a random comedy, what you've named so perfectly, that's when I started to see glimmers of beauty. But when it was just me getting beat over the head with that's a random comedy, I was like, okay, I can't. This is not for me. I'm from a different era, I guess.
I totally understand like the impulse too of like, how high do you have to be to watch this show? Like I totally get that. I do sometimes, I think, like take issue with that being the sort of response, which is a response that a lot of people have to shows like this. Like I think that's a totally normal thing to have. But I do think that like there's a difference between like Adult Swim type of stuff that is like intentionally made to be like that, and something like this, which like they weren't a bunch of creators on drugs. They are specifically very intentionally trying to like tap into like childhood imagination and what that would like looks like, and trying to like sort of imitate that, like it in which often is surreal. Like I think a lot of things that we talked about in our Dexter's Lab episode that was written by a 6-year-old kid, like kind of relates to like what they're trying to do with Adventure Time, where it's like child brain logic doesn't really make sense. And if you try to like communicate that and make it into something tangible, it's like, it's just surreal and often just sort of random because kids' brains go all over the place. But there is something really, I think, special about trying to follow that kind of like logic to its like kind of logical conclusion in a weird way of sort of like, if there was actually a world just made of kid logic, but it still was a functioning world with real characters that are like fleshed out and stuff, like what would that look like?
Yeah.
And I think that like the sort of experiment of Adventure Time, I feel like is trying to sort of like play with that and just be like, this is meant to be a universe that is like technically post-apocalyptic, but what if the post-apocalyptic Earth was just like a child's imagination, like kind of run amok essentially. And like, I think that's something really cool and feels like a kind of a calculated move from these creators. And I think that it is worth looking at a show like this from that lens, less so than just like the comedy lens, like rules of comedy lens, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
I was going to also say too, I think there's a really like through line in this that sometimes you don't get in the shows that have like a lot of the that's so random humor, which is like, it has a lot of heart. Like there's like so much like heart in this show. And I think one of the reasons is that the folks who work on this show, like you can really understand that they're like, I mean, the studios will studio a lot of the times. Like there's a lot of things that I think they wanted to do earlier on, like some of the queer representation, I think that you don't really get until later on in the show. I mean, you get like glimpses of it, of course, but like you don't get like a full, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but you don't get like a full exploration of that until later seasons. Like obviously the studios will pull back on some of that stuff, but like for the most part, I think the folks running the show and the folks working on the show really like let everybody have like their own voice with it. And I think that's with the episode that we're going to talk about today too. I think something that's especially like really fascinating of like how they will do these episodes where they just bring on guest animators and like let them kind of do their own thing. But it's also true of like folks who are just working on the show in general. And so I think that leads to a lot more heart than you get in a lot of these shows that are just kind of like super random. And like also too, I'll just say at the end of the day, and this is something that draws me to it, and this is a through line as well, is like it's just kind of like good guy core, like, and it's like this weird thing that like I'm always drawn to of like, I don't know, it's like good dudes trying to do good stuff and help people, and it's like, I don't know, there's like this wholesomeness to it that like always makes me feel just like at home with it. And I think that's the other piece that like really contributes to the heart of the show, that I think even when the show is at its weirdest and freakiest, I think it still often shines through.
Yeah, I mean, that's really fair. Again, I only had a chance to watch so many of these. And Derek's right. Like, I think going into the deck was stacked against Adventure Time. But this is also my first toe in the water of any of these that would come. Like, I'm familiar with things like OKKO and Steven Universe that were sort of born out of the creatives who worked on storyboarding here for Adventure Time.
Right.
And I know that those have gone on to carry a lot of the legacy of this, the way that the stories are told, the way that animation looks, and the heart that comes from here. But it's also hard for me to separate this too much from like a Rick and Morty, just in sort of the cultural development of like animation and who animation is for, who ends up enjoying animation, and what they go on to then spread as sort of the fandom of the series.
Yeah, and I think totally fair. And also I think like as someone who like loves this show as much as I do, I also know it's like not gonna like really connect with every single person who watches it. It is, it is a very like stylized thing. It is a very specific thing. And also, the Rick and Morty of it all, like there's a direct connection to Rick and Morty, like within the show. I'm blanking on his name.
Roiland.
Yeah, Justin Roiland.
I forgot that he did a voice on this show.
Yeah, and it was a very, popular character. And it was a popular character with a lot of the folks who love like that kind of random humor.
Screaming at you humor.
Yeah. It really like kind of pops off from this a little bit. And I do think like there's a lot of, Adventure Time DNA, I think, in Rick and Morty as well.
Sure.
Like, even if that's not like my specific cup of tea anymore.
I think that the DNA from this, really everything that is in the animated world since Adventure Time is touching Adventure Time. And I only know that because of all the background research that I ended up doing.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't even things like we talked with Danielle Weisberg, who wrote on The Simpsons and was working on Crepopolis. Crepopolis comes from Adventure Time. Like all of these things spread and have tentacles that have gone on to the animation world in children's animation, teen animation, and adult animation. Pretty much everything since not 2010, but like just about the start of the show. This is like the mouth of the river. I mean, the mouth of the river is much, much further back. It's like Dr. Katz, but like this is a big tributary, I guess.
Yeah.
River.
I think in terms of like, for whatever reason, it just worked out that this show is able to just like nurture a lot of artists, I think. And I think partially like with this episode, like they were very open to like artists kind of doing their own thing and like bringing in and like actually trying to be experimental with things and being like, just come in here and play, which I guess is kind of like the ethos of this show, is just like playing and being imaginative, So like, I guess like when you think about it, it does kind of make sense that it's like, that does seem like the perfect environment to like launch creatives and artists of all kinds to then make their own thing and learn from this show. But like, but it is also very cool when then you go back to like the early days of it and just be like, this was the show that was like one of the most influential shows of the 21st century.
Yeah.
Like, it's so fascinating.
Yeah. Season 1, episode 1 would not tell you that story by itself. And so I think that's what made I had a lot of fun researching the show. I will have, again, fond memories and very excited about this conversation. Just didn't work for me as a property.
Yeah. I have a question for you all though, because you might know more of that than I do, because you've alluded to it. Like, I have never been entrenched in like the Adventure Time fandom, which I know is huge and exists, and there's all types of stuff, and anything that has heavy lore, it's going to have like deep wikis and subreddits and stuff. But I feel like you've talked around like the fandom, like there's elements of fandom stuff that's a little bit weird. Is there like weirdness with that? Because I also can see that being a thing that rubs people the wrong way if they're put off by the people that watch and talk about the show in some ways.
There's never been weirdness in fandom, Derek.
That's true. All fandoms are good and pure.
All fandoms are good, pure.
Everyone's
and never
nice.
bad.
Everyone's nice and accepting and inclusive.
Here's the problem: is that I think of fandoms, I think of the two of you. You are like my blueprints for fandoms. So I actually do believe that people who like things are genuinely good people. And then to get myself ready for conversations for this show, I go on to things like one of the 6 different Adventure Time subreddits because there's so much drama between the moderators that they just storm off and form their own new place. And there's a lot of homophobia. And it's wild.
So much homophobia.
How much somebody can like something and hate it. And that it, I know I've talked to Derek about this with other properties, and I know that it's just me not having ever had like a fandom, but I just can't imagine liking something so much that I hate it. And I just can't, I can't get there in my head.
I think you're a healthier person than a lot of people on the internet is the thing.
Yeah, I was never really involved with like any fandom stuff with Adventure Time, and I honestly thank the higher powers for that, because it does just seem like it could be kind of miserable. But I will say there's some really cool parts of the fandom as well, from what I have seen. I think that like, it takes all kinds to really make up a fandom, unfortunately. And it is really funny that you mentioned that, David, because I actually was looking up something earlier today too, and someone was like, this is a spoiler for the end of the series, so I'm just giving listeners a warning. So skip ahead like 20 seconds, but someone was like, I don't think the PB and Marceline kiss was believable. And it's like, what show were you watching?
Dude,
like,
they're so gay the whole show, even when they're not.
Listen,
Like
it's impossible to not like understand that. I feel like you have to be watching. And what I will say is that was like something someone had posed on the Reddit, and people were like, thankfully I saw, like, seeing that question, like I saw a lot of people just being kind of like, it is believable, and here's why. Like, here's everything that makes sense about this. Like, so yeah, it does kind of take all kinds, but I think like, there's a ravenous fan base for this, and especially like when it was still on the air. And I think now that like Fiona and Cake is still premiering, which I will say I have not actually gotten to watching Fiona and Cake, but I do know that there is a huge fan base still following this.
Well, it seems that there are new fans coming to the series, either because of the new series. I will say that a lot of what I did read was like how to get started as a fan of Adventure Time. So when you sort of get past the muddy gates of some of these like protected walled off communities, there really is some beauty in letting people come and be new enjoyers of a thing that you've always enjoyed, with like one lone exception that I encountered. Like, truly most people are like, oh my gosh, you want to experience this thing I like, I will tell you about it. And I think that's what I think fandom is supposed to be, is like, here's my big tent, come on in. And I think what rubs us is when it's the other way around.
Yep.
That's a much bigger conversation.
we simply can't do
How much time
that.
I got?
Sorry to be a bummer early on, but also I was genuinely curious, and also I just wanted to get it out of the way because there's much more interesting stuff to talk about than the fandom.
So much more
for Adventure
interesting
Time.
stuff. And I think that like, if you are a fan of the series, like I am so excited to hear like the experiences that you two have had and how you came at this episode, because this is one of the things that I love about gimmicks is that sometimes when we cover an episode, there is like universal love for it, and sometimes there is just this very didactic way of looking at it. And so much of the conversation about this episode, which I just wasn't expecting when I went to do my dive on the fandom, was, is this canon? And
Oh my God, that's so stupid. Who cares? Who cares?
I knew you were going to say that.
That's what sent me down the rabbit hole of being like, because I'm like, I too am like Derek, who fucking cares? And B, I was also like no, I need to, not to like dismiss my own the premise of a show that I co-host, but like no, like you got a different opening, like you got to be a little bit more flexible with the way that you think about life if your opening credits are different. Like,
yeah. Also, like, and if you do want to be like very hyper logical and rational about it or whatever, like the people who worked on the show literally are like, yeah, it's not canon. We made it to not be canon. So like your answer is right there. So why are you arguing about it? And also, who cares? Why does it matter? What is it? Have you seen the show? Half the episodes like are just like random shit that don't matter. So like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Exactly. I guess that was my other thing, Derek, because I was like, well, okay, sure, it's not canon, but like neither were like half the episodes in season 1. Like, what is canon? Like, get over it.
It's so funny. When I was thinking about episodes to pitch for this, there was, I mean, truly, like, I would say there's like probably a good at least quarter of the show that would fit as a gimmick episode.
Yeah.
Some of them just being gimmicks for the show itself. Like, and so when I landed on, this one, I was like, I know there's a lot of discussion about this episode and like the guest animated episodes. It seems like probably a fun one to bring in. And also because the other reason I pitched it was because it is so disconnected from the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Like it's completely in its own thing. It's just kind of a showcase of animation. And so it was like, that makes sense to do it. But then also, you have all of the fans being like, what is the meaning of this? What is this canon? Like, how do we rectify this with our existing like lore book? And it's like,
again,
you don't.
Makes no sense to me when it's like the whole point of the whole ethos of the show is like, isn't imagination and creativity great? Like, use your fucking imagination, idiots.
Yeah.
Like, it's fake. It's like, what are you talking about?
It's just fun. What if things looked different? That's all we need.
I have no experiences with canon discussions, by the way. Not a thing that comes up.
As a Star Wars fan, everyone's very normal about what exists and what doesn't exist.
You people could give the Catholics a run for their money. Anyway, let's talk about some of the people who made this series what it is, because I do think that in order to talk about Adventure Time, we have to talk about a few of the central figures. And I think that conversation, a great place to start to that is the creator, Pendleton Ward. He was artistic from childhood. His mom was an artist. She recognized and nurtured his spirit. A great thing for moms to do, in case you're listening. She even scored him a meeting with Matt Groening in middle school to give him advice about becoming an animator. And Groening remembered that and crashed a Comic-Con panel that he was at to cover Adventure Time by being like snuck in the back of the room and surprised him and was like, I see my advice paid off. Like, very Matt Groening thing to do.
That's wild.
And
that is amazing.
Also, how does your mom score a meeting with Matt Groening?
I tried to find an answer to this. Sarah.
And I wonder like what year exactly it was. Like, where was he at? It had to be during Simpsons though.
Yeah.
So like, it wasn't like he wasn't.
Yes. Spoiler alert.
Major
Pendleton Ward has
person.
never been alive when The Simpsons has not been on the air.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But
wow, time's weird.
Yeah, I tried to find the details about it. He has spoken about it. Even his mom has scored an interview about it, but no like details on how the relationship was. I kind of like to believe it's like a Dexter's Lab thing where his mom just like sent a letter and it was like, my kid is an animator. We're going to be in town. Can we like meet you? And he just said yes.
Yeah.
Because people can just say yes
That's
to things
sweet.
sometimes.
I
I
love
hope
that.
so. Yeah.
Eventually, Ward ended up attending the animation program and he graduated at Cal Arts, a famous animation program, has generated tons of the people that you know of in the world.
That's another thing that people on the internet have famously been very annoying about Cal Arts.
Yes. Okay. But
we simply cannot even go down that road.
Just to say, I love Cal Arts and I am right. So suck it. He was, because of his work at Cal Arts, he was noticed by Frederator Vice President Eric Homan. We're going to spend a little time with Frederator in a second, but this is just how he gets connected to the anthology program Random! Cartoons. And he had two shorts that featured on that. One was The Bravest Warriors and one was the Adventure Time animated short. Did either of you have a chance to watch the original animated short?
I've seen it before.
It's good. I mean, it's Adventure Time.
Jake! Jake! Good morning! What you doing, buddy?
Meditating.
What are you meditating about, dude?
Wait, dude, I'm connecting to the internet with my mind.
Beep, boop, 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 beep, boop.
Check it out, I downloaded a little dance.
Huh, I like it. Woo!
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like I have seen it. I did not think to rewatch it before, which I should have. I should have thought
Nope.
of that.
I mean, if you've seen Adventure Time, you have seen the animated short. The voices are a little different because people aren't, the characters are just a little different. It's a little bit more like Kissy Kissy Princess, which I think is always kind of there with Finn and Bubblegum until it's not. But like it felt a little turned up to 11 in the little short. But that short gained so much popularity online that Pendleton felt empowered to like make a pitch. But because Random! Cartoons was developed and sold to Nickelodeon as part of Frederator, he was sort of under contract for like, they had to refuse it. This felt like converting to Judaism. Like he got refused 5 times by Nickelodeon. But then the like terms of his contract expired and he could sell it wherever he wanted. And boy, Cartoon Network picked up that series pretty quickly. That was the work of the brand new hired chief content creator Rob Shower, who said of the show, "Its unfiltered imagination didn't inspire much confidence, but I was in the position where I could afford to take a risk because that's what this show really represented at the time." And that risk paid off. This was a standard bearer for Cartoon Network for many years.
I might be wrong here with my Cartoon Network history, but I feel like that might have been during like a lower period for Cartoon Network where there wasn't like, I can't really remember other than like Ben 10, but like in the terms of like the comedy realm for comedy cartoons, I don't really think that Cartoon Network had a lot happening at the time. So they really needed like a cultural hit to, I think, revitalize it, and definitely did.
Definitely did.
I was going to say too, because it's so funny to hear him say like, its unfiltered imagination was, you know, something I was willing to take a risk on. And it's like what the hell else is a cartoon supposed to be?
Well,
right?
I think that speaks to what the last 6 years at Cartoon Network were.
Oh, was this the time when they were doing live action shows?
Yes, they were doing live action shows.
Right.
Oh,
okay.
right.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's why
that's hilarious.
This Rob, I think I said Sorcerer, it's sort of French, so sorry, Rob. Like he got hired because they were like, this fucking sucks. We need a new guy in. And this new guy, and like this is a more contemporary interview. This is like looking back. It's kind of weird that he was like, I was hired to like change things up. I picked something that was really, really good and changed everything, and I wasn't sure if it was going to work. Like, I don't know, have a better memory of this.
Yeah, that's so wild.
Ward then is showrunner of Adventure Time, and that lasts for 5 seasons before he, citing exhaustion, primarily of managing people, leaves as showrunner, sort of lets his second in command, who he'd sort of brought in with him, be showrunner, but he stays on. He's like a creative force of the series for like ever. This is his series, and it is like, even though he has done plenty of other amazing things, this will probably be the top line of his bio forever.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, I think one of the other things too was like, it just, by season 5, that's when it has like it's big at that point. Like it's huge at that point. I think there was already video games either in development or that had already released. There were 5 video games.
Season 5. Season 5 is when the video games come out. But
I was like, whoa.
There are more than 5. If Lee Carvalho's would like to move on to Adventure Time games, you would be well set up for a year's worth of podcasts.
Do not tempt me, David.
Sorry,
but
Derek.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's there was that. There's like, I don't remember when like the actual official Card Wars game like release. That's like a thing that So there's like there's all this stuff that like is surrounding the show, and like I was reading just some interviews too with Pendleton, and he was like, it just became like way too much, and I kind of get that. You know what I mean? Like
sure.
It's like,
well,
you just want to do the creative stuff, and then.
Yeah, I think that's the thing a lot of showrunners run into, is that like being a head creative or like head writer, is very different from being showrunner, where you are a people manager and a team lead and like have to deal with the business side of it. Like, and I think that's a rude awakening for a lot. It's from what I've read. I think it can be a rude awakening for some creatives in the industry when they have to become showrunner and realize that like it's more of a business job in a lot of cases than it is a creative job, and not everyone's good at that.
Well, I think I shit on managers all the time, and they mostly deserve it, but like it is a management job, which means that you are talking about people's feelings, and you have to take a network note. For example, don't make bubblegum too queer. And tell your queer storyboard artist that you can't have bubblegum be too queer, because the person who made that decision is too chicken shit to tell the queer storyboard artist that information. And then that has to filter through this guy who just wanted to make art. And what a shitty fucking thing that we do in the arts, that these managers can make, the upper management can make these decisions and then be like, but I'm not going to tell anyone. You've got to be the one to deliver the bad news.
Horrible.
Well, and also, keep in mind too, like, you know, Pendleton and Adam Udo, who becomes the showrunner as well, has been encouraging said queer storyboard artists to put, you know, parts of themselves into these characters, right? So like to have to then tell this person, like, actually maybe don't put too much of yourself into the characters is like really fucked up. Like, and so like I get it. Like that's like horrid.
Just, you know, this is part of what we make people do. And I think that's why this burnout happened. At least I think Tommy and I probably read some of the same interviews. Like it just, he seemed very open and honest that like it was just mentally taxing and psychically damaging to do that part of the job.
Which I kind of love him being that honest about it too. Like I feel like, and I know y'all are way more engrossed with like a lot of the production stuff with TV, but like, is it normal for a showrunner who leaves a show to just be like, I was burnt out and like really depressed and like it was just too much for me, and I just decided like I just needed to take a step back? Because I feel like that's really refreshing to be able to say that.
I think it's less and less common now because I think people are just more open about talking about mental health type stuff related to that in general. But I do think probably for a long time it would be like, this showrunner left. It's like, why? It's like, well, you know, for XXX reasons. And it's like, maybe they just were depressed and burnt out. Actually, for a lot of them, that might actually have been the reason all along.
I completely countersign what Derek's saying because I think that is exactly the case. And I think that it is refreshing to see somebody who's like, you know what I really wanted was my old job back, and be able to do that. Yeah. And there were times in my professional career where I was like, I just want my old job back. I hate this new job. I hate having a staff of 12. I love all of you. If you're listening to the podcast, keep listening. But like it's managing people's feelings is a difficult job. And I went to school for feelings, and it's a difficult job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that. And I mean, I've just from my own personal experience, like a lot of the times where it's like, that's how industries work, where it's like you do a good job and the only way for you to get paid more money, even when like prices are going up around you and stuff like that, is to take on more responsibilities and manage people, even if that's not what you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, like it's really shitty that that's how that works.
And that's how you end up with bad managers, because not everyone's good at managing people, but it's the only way to move up the ladder in certain cases. So it's like, so you end up with people who aren't fit for the job.
Yeah.
With that
or
job.
Want to do it.
Yeah. Or don't really want to do it. Yeah. So again, all of that's to say, more power to Pendleton Ward for recognizing that and being like, no, someone else can do this part of the job. I'm done. Let me do the fun stuff again.
Okay. Well, then I want to talk about another central figure who was very, very interesting in all of this. And that is Fred Siebert, the sort of founder of Frederator Studios, which you will have heard if you made it all the way to the end credits of many episodes. And there's beautiful like Adventure Time music happening, and then the Frederator cuts right in, and I was ready to hate Fred Siebert. So let's just talk a little bit about this man. First and foremost, he went to Columbia University. Hello, money. But he spent all of his time at the radio station with his best friend instead of going to classes, and drops out. Him and his best friend start a marketing company. He nabs a gig to launch MTV, music television. This is after, by the way, they helped name Comedy Central, but by accident. They actually had a much shittier name. It was going to be called the Comedy Network. So, like...
Oh my God. That's the most old person name I've ever heard in my life.
That's so
funny. So he's not necessarily the creative director on MTV. They mostly hire him to get a brand and notion of what the program will be. They know they want to show music videos. They don't need a consultant for that. They need a look and feel for MTV. And he is the one who comes up with the classic moon logo for MTV and the I Want My MTV campaign, which is one of the first sort of instances of people writing into their cable stations to pick something up back when we didn't all just have Comcast. Okay, wow. Big deal. So that puts him on the map. He is a big deal. He's making some money. He's like shaking hands with people. He gets drafted to improve Nickelodeon. He gets brought on to help improve their programming because they've really started to flounder. And this is in the late 80s. And this is like famous now around the story of Nickelodeon. He takes them from worst to first is the quote that you will see everywhere about his leadership of Nickelodeon. Because of that, they give him a little bit more presence and power and ask for suggestions. He develops and is responsible for starting Nick at Night,
Wow.
Dudes,
Wow.
this is the point in this I was like, how the fuck is this the same person?
Yeah.
It's wild. He says we're sitting on all this property, we should be doing something with it. People like reruns, don't make them go to their local channel. We should have a cable channel that prioritizes this, and that was also a huge hit. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
From 1992 to 1996, he serves as the president of Hanna-Barbera Cartoons because he's done...
What an era to be in charge of Hanna-Barbera, too.
For real!
Wow.
In 1994, that is when Hanna-Barbera starts the Cartoon Network. So he is at the head of the ship, but it is a lot of other people making that decision. He does not say that he is credited with creating Cartoon Network. In fact, he shies a little bit away from that. But he was there.
Yeah.
During this time, he is also investing his now well-acquired personal wealth into picking a lot of made-for-TV movies, films, television projects, and he is either really, really good at reading a script or very, very lucky, because my man's got like an 85% success rate. So he is making money hand over fist. Lifetime, Family Channel, he is doing it all. He is just financing projects. They're making money. They're going back to him. And so this was the point in my research where I was like, the guillotine is hungry, man. Let's go find this guy. But turns out he's actually a pretty good dude. After he leaves Hanna-Barbera because of the Time Warner merger, he starts this Frederator company, and their primary goal is to act as an incubator for people who think like children, who have expressive ideas, who want to create art that is meant for audiences that don't, buy Johnson & Johnson products. This was some of his quote work. So he starts Frederator Studios, which is sort of his incubator arm. It's also a lot of angel investments. Are you guys familiar with angel investments?
Yeah, that's like someone who just kind of doesn't have a anything in the game and just kind of gives a big donation.
So
right?
It's not a tax-free donation because a lot of artists don't qualify for that sort of thing. So it would be like me saying, Derek, I believe you can make this, but I don't think you can make it without $50,000. So I'm going to give you $50,000. If you ever give me that $50,000 back, I'm going to give it to Tommy to make something for $50,000. But if you don't ever pay me back or the product never gets made, no skin off my back. It is some of the most beautiful artistic donorism that you can find out in the world. And so
Love that.
He's spending a lot of personal wealth on this, which is really, really wild. And he's not just investing in cartoons. He is also investing in like funky, weird little technologies. In fact, his intern, who he hires to like make an internal microblogging software for their company, he says, this is a really good idea. You should keep doing this. And that person was David Karp, who founded Tumblr, which was pretty much entirely paid for by Siebert.
I was like, as soon as you said like microblogging, I was like, how did he invent Tumblr?
Yeah, which, you know what, I think is all a conspiracy because Adventure Time, very popular on Tumblr. I think that all.
Listen,
I think
I will buy that. I will.
Conspiracy goes all the way to the top.
I will buy
like,
that.
You know what? We're going to build a website to promote this show that we're going to make that'll be good on that website.
That's hilarious. But also like, you know what? I kind of wouldn't care if that was the case because like you could be doing so much worse things, like making so much things. Yeah, worse.
That's the thing, is that it's sort of like, obviously like a huge rich guy that's like investing in all this shit, but like everything he's investing in is like ultimately a net positive. It's all for the purposes of like creating art and like allowing people to create art. Like that's really beautiful. That's like I feel like it's one of the better case scenarios for being like a super rich person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to say that like fredsiebert.com is a Tumblr blog to this day.
Incredible.
Today.
Love that.
So his entire history, by the way, sourced from his own Tumblr blog here on the podcast. So anyway, he started Frederator Studios. They are producing the same sort of anthology model that he found to be successful when he was at Hanna-Barbera. So in that instance, it was What a Cartoon. Then it was Oh Yeah Cartoons. And then it was Random Cartoons, which brings us to the topic du jour, which is finding Adventure Time. And I just love this. He remained CEO of Frederator Studios until 2020, when in a series of like corporate things, he was sort of pushed out as CEO because of a couple of mergers. This is another one of those things where like the company became a thing.
Yeah. And Frederator was it's so many basically like all the most popular Nickelodeon cartoons like came from Frederator and stuff too. So it's like pretty hot commodity. It was a pretty hot get. So I'm not surprised that there's been a bunch of mergers and shit, which like, you know, the classic case of like it just gets too big and then pushes out the people who made it what it was.
Yeah, and they had opened several offices in 2020 offices.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
But he did post, you know, to his Tumblr blog that he was excited to return to his roots and make investments in cartoonists, and that is what he wants to continue doing until the day he dies.
I love that. To be just like a rich person who loves cartoons, like that's so beautiful.
I know, right?
And
It's like, I guess that's probably what I would do if I was a super rich person, I hope. So, you know.
I was going to say that's just me, but without the rich person part.
Right.
And I wish that I could be as good as this person is at picking projects. Truly and honestly, I don't think I would be successful. I think I would read scripts and pick the wrong things. I have bad taste.
Well, and also, like, sorry, I was pulling up like the filmography too for Frederator, and like I did not know that they had co-produced the Castlevania series.
Castlevania.
I didn't know that.
Fairly Odd Parent. Like, when you start to like dive into this is one of those things that again, the tentacles, like it's so deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is wild how much
wild.
how incestuous the animation industry often is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about season 5, episode 15, entitled "A Glitch Is a Glitch." It's originally aired on April Fool's Day, April 1st of 2013. That was intentional. This is a great idea for something to play on April Fool's, is just like completely wildly different thing. And Cartoon Network did intentionally play on that. Like the trailer for it, I think it is the first trailer that Adventure Time ever had on Cartoon Network, where like they would make a trailer that had no clips from the episode in it intentionally. And that's how they promoted it. Like it's just a bunch of clips cut together from past Adventure Time episodes.
Warning, we can't show you
Anything at all.
From the new Adventure Time, it's just too crazy, man. Ha 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 ha!
Yeah, get your
Eyeballs! Ready?
for the most
Amazing.
Adventure Time you have
ever seen with your eyeballs.
But, we can
Show you this scene
from the new
regular
Show.
What is this?
Adventure Time!
New episode Monday at 7:30, 6:30 Central, only on Cartoon Network.
And then they just end up showing a clip from the regular show episode that's coming on that day instead, which also I think was an April Fool's episode. So like, great way to amp up excitement and make people intrigued about it. Like, we can't even show you what our April Fool's episode looks like, which I think probably made it more fun to witness the surprise of turning on this episode. And then it just immediately begins with like a CGI sequence. So the synopsis per IMDb for this episode is: Ice King creates a computer virus to delete everybody except him and Princess Bubblegum.
Yeah, and this is where I finally realized, even though I had watched a bunch of these, that they're 11-minute episodes. Of course, they would air with something else, because the synopsis on IMDb also has the next episode on it.
Oh, sure, of course.
Which I will just say, the next episode also could fit as a gimmick episode and is also amazing.
It was good. I watched it. It was good.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the person who is responsible for this individual episode of Adventure Time. So this is written, directed, and storyboarded by David O'Reilly. I believe this is the first episode of Adventure Time that's written, directed, storyboarded, and animated by the same person. Not only by him, Studio Soy also was like involved in it, but like in terms of the same person being credited for all of those things, this is the first episode of Adventure Time that did that. And that's very uncommon in animation to have that with one person doing all that stuff when they're not like someone who was previously involved with the show, because he was not on the staff for this show. This is the only episode of Adventure Time he touches at all, which is, a fascinating thing to have happened. So O'Reilly is known for popularizing the use of like kind of blocky, low poly 3D in modern animation. He did like a lot of his early work is like very experimental. It uses these really intentionally crude bits of animation for both for like absurdity and the comedy of it, just because it's weird and off-putting and surreal, but also like some of it is done with the intent to experiment with how audiences can still sort of perceive and receive a storyline, regardless of how the animation is executed, even if it's done very poorly intentionally, right? So like one example, in 2008, there's a series of YouTube shorts called Octocat Adventure. They were very popular at the time, and they're very fascinating because there's basically like 5 like just 2 to 3 whatever minute episodes. They were made under the pseudonym Randy Peters, presented as a 9-year-old amateur, creating these like crude, really bizarre animations of just like an MS Paint drawn cat with like a bunch of like long legs. And it was like truly made in like MS Paint.
Oh yeah.
Through all of it, it's very weird, and it sounds like it's just a kid just ad-libbing weird shit and everything.
I'm gonna get you. Oh no, please don't. I'm gonna run really fast.
Again, intentionally made to be very crude looking until its last episode, part 5, when it suddenly becomes this sleek, like really well rendered 3D animation, clearly made by a professional animator. So it was just this whole experiment just to be like, you think it's a thing a kid could do, but you know what? You were following the storyline all the way through, and then I made a professional animation and you still understand it. Like, it's just, just for the sake of playing with the medium, right? So that's the kind of stuff that he was doing and was getting popular with doing, for his early work.
I'm sure you're going to get to this too, but like, it was fascinating to me to learn that like he worked like as an animator, he was working like at the age of 14, and I think he worked with like Cartoon Saloon, right? Like, which is a huge like Irish animation studio, right? Like it's just wild to me, like how connected.
Yeah, and lied about who he was in order to get the job, because otherwise they wouldn't employ him because he was too young. This David O'Reilly is another one of the people involved with this episode where I was just like, wow, everyone here is so wild and so weird and so cool.
Yeah.
But like, Octocat is first of all, if you haven't watched it, I really do recommend checking it out. It's like 4 minutes, right, Derek? It was a very
you can watch like a compilation of all of them. It's literally like 5 minutes. No kidding.
Very short, but it is very trippy, and it gives you a great sense of who O'Reilly is as an artist, and how sort of his like motif style and like weirdness, because everything he does has this sort of weird element to it. He is also the first video game to qualify for an Oscar nomination. He did not get nominated, but he's the first video game to qualify for it because his video game was entered as a short film in an Australian film festival. It won a juried film prize, which made it eligible for the Oscars. There's some, we'd have to talk to Shells to get like the full situation here. There's some like Oscars drama about this too, of like maybe the Aussies did it as like a fuck you to the Americans, which then that only makes it more fun that O'Reilly was like game for that.
Yeah.
But games have gone on to be eligible in the category from then on. But Everything, which is the game that qualified for it, is a game in which you can play as anything that is placed in the world. Amoebas all the way to continents of land. And he would follow that up with the game Mountain, which is also a very surrealistic experience. So just if you liked Octocat and you were like, hey, this would be fun to play with a controller, you're wrong, but you should check out those two games.
So was it everything that was nominated for the Oscar?
Yes.
Or
well, it wasn't nominated, it was just eligible for a nomination. It won a juried prize.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I actually have recently started playing that, and
oh really?
Yeah, it's so fun and it's so trippy. Like, it is, I'm not like usually like a sim game type person, but it is just like, it's a little bit, I think I was like reading, like he described it as like I'm trying to find it in my notes, but it's like a very like relaxing. Yeah. He like, actually this was from, it helped inspire portions of Everything Everywhere All at Once. And one of the directors was saying like he referred to the game as a relax 'em up instead of a shoot 'em up. And so it is just like this relaxing style game, but also has like philosophy built into it and stuff like that. If it really does, like if you watch any of his stuff, you can feel like the tendrils of like his kind of what he's doing in everything, which is
the
a weird
Octocat like tendrils.
Yeah.
No, that's really, I want to check out that game. That sounds a relax 'em up. Is that what what he said?
That's what
I kind of love that. I love that. That's so fun.
But I will note it is kind of heady too, because like you do end up playing as like, once you get down to like the molecular level, you end up going back up to be the size of galaxies, which is
I think
wild.
That's cool as shit.
It's really cool.
So fucking cool. He also did work on like in actual film, right? Like he's created award-winning short films. He's done animation for movies like the guide sequences in the 2005 Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He did the video game sequences in the movie Her. In addition to doing like so many like animation things in terms of like these experimental worlds, he's also done it for like live action films and everything too, like very well known big budget ones. So he's all over the place with this stuff. It's really cool.
And just last year, he gave an interview with the Gemini website magazine, possibly, and he talked about like sort of how he's changed the way that he looks at art because of the influx of AI generated art. And he talks very openly about like, I make my art through a computer, but like computers can't be art. And it is a very heady and trippy interview. And I do recommend folks take it out, but I did pull a quote. He wrote, "The problem now is that technology controls people's autonomy in ways that we're not even aware of, that are beyond our perception. How can we develop technology while considering human autonomy at the center rather than profit? That is my current interest."
Yeah. He has a Substack as well, and he actually has a specific like an entry that is on AI, and it's a really interesting he has a couple entries I think on AI, and they're very like interesting, both philosophical but also practical like looks at like AI in animation, and I think he has a very like level like set look at them. I was like to the point where I was like, is he advocating for like using AI? But also I think he's kind of like, it's not an advocation for it, but more of like it is here, so like we need to probably better understand it. It's a really fascinating, interesting look at it.
I mean, I think the funny thing is that 10 years ago, if you had talked to David O'Reilly and you're like, hey, you can type into a machine, like draw me a picture of a person, but it makes it with 6 fingers. He'd be like, that's fucking awesome, because we don't have 6 fingers and that's a computer fucking up. And so he'd probably be into the like not getting it right part, but it's all the corporate around it that is so disgusting and polluting of all of that, is per his words.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It's a small cast on today's episode. We're really just talking about the main characters. We get a couple additional voices, but they're, it's 4 characters today. So I'll give a little bit of time for these folks just because they also have significant histories. We'll start with Jeremy Shada, who plays the role of Finn. He is the younger brother of Zach Shada, who played Penn, who would become the character Finn in the animated short from Random Cartoons. Finn is his best known role, but he is a prolific voice actor, and he was a child actor. He played young Charlie in Lost.
Very cool. Very cool.
And also voiced Finn at, I think, the age of 12.
Yes. And has... Yeah.
Which is...
He also has tons of... It is hard to look at his IMDb for other credits because Finn is like everywhere. Because Adventure Time is everywhere.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is like when you search Adventure Time just in search engines and stuff, like it'll also always say like, people always ask, did they change Finn's voice? And it's like no, he just literally grew as a person, and
that's funny.
That's why his voice changed.
That's funny.
It's so funny because like Steven Universe had the same problem too.
Yeah.
Zach Callison, like voice changes midway through, but it's like you're still technically not like they're not aging that much in the context of the shows. They have to figure out how to like navigate that.
That's
it's so
wild.
funny.
I wish that. I mean, I don't wish. I had a great experience, but I watched sort of some of 1, some of 2, some of 3, some of 4, some of 5. So I didn't even really notice changes because they were that sort of gradual change. The way that like if you watch The Simpsons from 1 to 34, you probably didn't, the voices are different, but you don't notice because it's gradual. Whereas if you like watch one episode in season 1 and jump to modern day, you're probably a little startled by what you get. That's the ravages of time. Jeremy Shada was also the lead character for every episode of a series called Mr. Student Body President, which started as a dark political thriller, kind of like a House of Cards in high school, and then became like a wacky high school comedy. Are either of you familiar with this?
No.
I'm not surprised because it aired
cool.
exclusively on Verizon's Go 90 service.
What is Verizon's Go 90
It's like their
service? Is this like a Yahoo Screen shit thing?
Oh
I think
God.
worse because I think you could only look at it on a Verizon mobile phone device.
Yeah, sure.
It's the series is available to watch I am not certain how legal I found it. And the first episode is wildly dark. And then I watched the highest rated episode, which is about like puppies invade the school. And when I say like a left turn, like it's a very different series. But like 3 seasons, as it were.
How long were these episodes?
10 minutes. I know, not even 10 minutes. They were bite-sized.
I'm sure the fandom for that for Mr. Student Body President is like goes very, very deep and very intense, and you see multiple subreddits.
You know what? I couldn't find a gimmick episode, Derek. That's what I was like, let me bring this one back.
Yeah, I mean, you know what though? Having considered it, we should find like a Quibi or Yahoo Screen original thing and find a gimmick episode of that to do one day. Like something that like literally no one has seen.
Quibi is a gimmick of itself. Like you can just do any kind of Quibi episode. And it's a gimmick episode.
Stay tuned next season. Gimmicks doing the golden arm.
Outside Finn, Shada is the lead for the How to Train Your Dragon TV spin-off series set in modern day dragons, the 9 realms.
Wow. Okay.
Then we've got Jake. Jake is played by John DiMaggio. This is a voice that you know very, very well. DiMaggio graduated from Rutgers and formed a New York City comedy duo with his buddy. The duo was called Red Johnny and the Round Man. People used to call DiMaggio Red Johnny, but by the time they started becoming popular in New York City, he had gained weight and said they were both the Round Man.
Aw.
I like that.
Yeah, that's cute.
He says that he like lost the fire to do comedy and so like dragged himself to LA to be an actor. It was actually a kind of like, I was listening to him on a podcast and he was like really sad about it. Like he was like, I wish I could have been a comedian, but I settled for being an actor. And
that's so
the world
wild.
The world is all the better for it though, man.
Like, I was gonna say like literally probably one of the greatest living like voice actors right now being like, I wish I could have done comedy. It's like,
you are doing comedy all the time. You're so funny, but I guess he wants to do his own comedy. But you know what? Acting in Adventure Time and Futurama is a big step up from being a stand-up comedian. Sorry.
Yeah. Like, so his IMDb is 400 plus credits. I'm not going to do them all. Jake from Adventure Time, Bender from Futurama. He is Waka and Kamari in Final Fantasy X and the follow-up 10-2. He's Marcus Phoenix from Gears of War, a game I only know because the guys look like they could crush you with their thighs. He is Rico the Penguin from the Madagascar extended universe, which is they use those penguins a ton, and I hope this man has bought a second house with that money. But his first credited voice acting role was the MTV animated series The Head from 1996, a strange animated show about a big head.
I know nothing about this.
I've never seen it, but I know like the visuals of it. I very much recognize it. It was like this. Was it like the same? Was it like the Liquid Television era, like that, like the Max came out of? Too?
You're right on the money, Derek. I did watch The Head. Like that makes it sound like I was like an academic of The Head. I do remember seeing episodes of The Head, and I don't know that I would need to revisit it.
Sure.
He considers his big break in LA to be getting the role on Chicago Hope. He had a guest starring role, and he got along so famously with the producers and directors that they wrote him into an 11-series arc, and that's what he cites as his success. He was also recently in Interview with a Vampire, the Netflix one, Mythic Quest as Dave Williams, Poppy's like potential future boss from season 1.
Interesting.
Funny, of course, because DiMaggio is a very funny actor, and he's made to play a straight character against Charlotte Nickdow's insanity. Mm-hmm. He was in the new Frasier, and then he had a small recurring role on Better Call Saul.
Wild.
I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that he also voiced General Grievous in the Clone Wars
briefly, like for one episode. Yeah.
Well, but he did do one episode is why I didn't even see it. I had to make choices, Tommy. And one episode I just scrolled on by.
Yeah.
That was not an attack level at you, David. That was having to do my due diligence.
I look anytime there's a Spider-Man or a Star Wars, I know who I'm talking to on these. I will say that he was on the dub for Princess Mononoke. It's funny because it appears earlier on his IMDb credits, but the dub comes out much later than The Head did.
Yeah, he's done another, I don't know how many Studio Ghibli movies.
He's on a couple
done,
Ghiblis, yeah.
Yeah, because I know that he was in one that we just watched recently, Pompoko,
Yeah.
I believe.
Pompoko. I don't know that was a Ghibli, though. It was.
It was.
It's not a Miyazaki one.
That's what it is.
Miyazaki,
that's
but
what
it
was,
is. Yeah.
That's the sexy raccoon men.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Then we've got Tom Kenny as the Ice King. Kenny is the oldest of the cast. He's a stand-up comedian, and that led to him getting roles and doing the sort of thing you did when you did stand-up in the 80s and 90s. He was on like everybody's show. If you were a stand-up guy who started a sitcom that had your name in the title, this guy was on your show. And he got those gigs because his best friend from childhood, like they went to elementary school together, is Bobcat Goldthwait. And so Bobcat Goldthwait would like help him get auditions by like throwing his name around. And so that is sort of Kenny's start in Hollywood. He also became a prolific voice actor. He scored the role of Heifer from Rocko's Modern Life. That's what like launched him into voice acting. Various roles on Godzilla, the series. He was also in Final Fantasy X-2. He was on Dexter's Lab as Val Hallen. And he is, of course, Doc Ock in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But he's probably best known as SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yep.
Yeah.
To this day, right? Isn't that show still going right now?
To this day. It is the top of his IMDb credits, which is bizarre to see. Such a big number next to any series.
Yeah.
Going on 400 episodes, I believe,
Wow.
of SpongeBob.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Another series
Yeah.
I've never seen an episode of, but I am familiar with SpongeBob. I do know who he is. And then I just thought it was funny that we had another Ghibli show up. So he was the voice dub on Porco Rosso.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You said, which character was he?
You know what? I think he was Gauza, but I don't remember.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to recall.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, he's just. I mean, it's wild to have like so many prolific voice actors in one place.
It's Ferrari that he voices, by the way.
Oh, Ferrari. Thank you. And I just loved that like DiMaggio and Kenny like seemed to get really close to each other on projects. I'm sure they were like in a studio together because even in the 2000s, like that wasn't really how you were doing all of this. But yeah, I just think that it was fun that they both had Ghibli under their belts as like early roles.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then we've got Hynden Walsh as Princess Bubblegum. She is also a prolific voice actor. One of her earliest credits was as one of the children in Groundhog Day who annoys Bill Murray.
Wild. That's so funny.
I had no idea about that.
Child.
Yeah, unnamed child.
But she breaks into voice acting with her role on Teen Titans as Starfire, which is probably her best known role outside of Bubblegum. And Harley Quinn in some recent Harley Quinn shows, but not all recent Harley Quinn shows, and not the one you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Is that? I wonder if that's like in a movie or. Oh no! Wow, there's another Harley Quinn TV show. That came
Correct.
out
Harley Quinn, New Unlikely Hero.
What?
Came out this year.
What is this?
I've not heard of this.
She's also been Harley in like a couple other things, but like not Harley. Like I imagine that Walsh is fantastic because she's really good as Bubblegum and she's really good as Starfire, but like that was surprising to me. But she's and has done it for a couple of other things.
I can see that.
That are
I
in
can
there.
totally see that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the gimmick of the episode. So there's a few things that are going on here, but I think right away, like different art style should be like very apparent to everyone. And so it's, not unusual. Actually, it's pretty, there's a whole like section of the Adventure Time Wikipedia that covers guest animated episodes. So I think maybe this is a good place to start.
Yeah.
A Glitch is one of 14 episodes of Adventure Time that is animated by guests outside of their usual team. And that includes either partial sequences or whole episodes like this one.
Yeah. And this is of those 14, 4 of those were so outside of things that they are, not to have this conversation again, but considered to be not canon of the show. But like, I do think that's important to recognize that it's like, these were like 14 obviously brought in guest animators, but I think like those 4 being this one, Food Chain, Bad Jubies, and Water Park Prank, all of those were made with the specific intention that it's like, nothing matters. Do whatever the fuck you want the entire time. It doesn't have to be canon. We're not like, don't follow any rules, do your thing, which is a pretty wild thing to like bring in guest animators to do, right? So like I think that's a big part of it. And then as a result for this one, because this guest animator, David OReilly, is so entrenched in, computer generated animation, this ends up being the only fully 100% CGI animated episode of Adventure Time.
Yeah, it is truly and honestly the only one that goes all 3D all the time, which is very wild considering that a lot of the Adventure Time video games are set in 3D environments. And so these characters are all modeled. It shows an incredible amount of restraint that they wouldn't borrow the wireframes from that endeavor to use on the series more frequently. And I say good for them. But the first Adventure Time episode that used a little bit of 3D modeling was Guardians of Sunshine from season 2, episode 16. But it was only some of the episode. It was not the whole episode like this one is.
And that one is canon.
Oh my God. I did, by the way, watch Food Chain, and that one was wild. That was a wild time.
It's so, yeah. I mean, all of these are, it's so funny how divisive these are in the fandom because, like, of course they are. But, like, I love every single one of these episodes that they do, with the exception of Water Park Prank, which I think I did watch once, but you can no longer watch it, at least on YouTube, on Hulu, because it does not exist on Hulu.
Really?
And it is
okay.
It is consistently ranked as like one of the lowest rated episodes, I believe, of the show. I know it's like one of the lowest rated of the guest episodes, but like, yeah, I was like, because I was gonna go back and rewatch all of these, and like I was like, I was searching on Hulu for Water Park Prank, and I could not find it.
You can watch Water Park Prank on Max, so it's for some reason Hulu, which makes it weirder. Like, why is it not on Hulu, but it is on Max? I don't understand that.
I don't know. But yeah, Food Chain is that's another one that would be a great gimmick episode. That one like is 2D animated, but it is like such a wild style and is really, really interesting.
Yeah. I have seen that one before, the Food Chain episode, and that one is a really fascinating one.
Okay, so since we're talking about the O'Reilly of it all, and we're talking about this weird episode that he came in and guest directed, we've got to talk a little bit about the art form that he swims in and works in, which this episode features very, very highly, which is glitch art. And to start with that, I wanted to just talk a little bit about understanding the nature of a glitch. As a term, it's been around since the 1940s, 1950s, has like German and Yiddish language etymology. And big props to my friend Marcus, who lives up in Germany, who I messaged this morning because I knew he was awake because we're both in Europe. And I was like, help me understand this. The German word is, oh my God, I'm going to get this wrong. And now he's listening. Glitschig, which is a German verb that means slimy or slippery. And glischen from Yiddish, which means to slide or to like slip by. So it's like something's like getting by you. And that is because its first published uses and the first places you see it is all in radio, and it's about dialectics and dictation. So if you were just mispronouncing something a little bit, it was called a fluff. And if you're mispronouncing something really badly, it was called a glitch. By the 50s, this had sort of found its way into conversations around electricity, and it was where there were low frequency or low voltage changes, which are momentarily observable but unpredictable and ultimately unconsequential. The best example that I was offered for this is when you would turn on an incandescent light bulb and it would like almost imperceptibly glow to you, but you didn't even really... You might have just imagined it. That was a glitch.
Okay, that's so cool.
Also, today I learned I glitch on every single podcast I host because I can never pronounce names.
Same. Right. I had a whole joke ready where I was a fluffer, but I'm definitely a glitcher.
Me too.
Okay, so that would have been fun. Like, what if you're turning your lights on and they sort of flashed a little bit and you're like, oh, look, glitch. Except that it became pretty common language to describe something that you just couldn't explain in electrical engineering. And a lot of people who went into electrical engineering also worked for the U.S. Air Force. And the U.S. Air Force was highly involved in the space race against Russia to go to the moon. And so we were throwing around the word glitch all the time when it came to rocket development, and the public did not care for that at all. And so the idea of a glitch being something, because it was sort of like neutral before, and then after the 60s became this thing that's like, it's bad. Like
Yeah,
a glitch
like
is
an
like,
error.
it's bad. An error, exactly.
Yeah, interesting.
In that time, it was all hardware. But today, when we think about glitches, it's all software. And a glitch is different than a bug. A bug is an error which is predictable and consistent, either through incorrectly written software, which I have done, user or operator error, which I've also done, or exploitation, like somebody went in there and like hacked something, which I have not done. Glitches, however, are unpredictable software errors as a result of programming code not being interpreted through a processor. That's called like dropped code, which then causes cascading errors and overflows. So for example, if you're trying to do some calculus on the shape of a donut, and your 7,394th point that is at the head of the donut just gets an extra integer added to it, and it drags the model out by that one integer, that's what that sort of thing looks like. And that's where like glitches, we call a Bethesda game very buggy, but it's actually very glitchy because it's all these sorts of things.
Okay.
Both bugs and glitches can result in bizarre rendering of vector graphics, especially because of the calculus and then in 3D environments, collision detection issues. But when it comes to glitch art, it's very important to note that a bug is considered a misinterpretation of what art is supposed to be, and a glitch is a different experience for a viewer of art. And I had a lot of trouble reconciling with this because I think in today's episode, a lot of these are like intentional, but they're meant to seem unintentional. They're meant to feel like an experience. And that's what a lot of this glitch art comes down to.
Well, what's interesting too is like, from what I've read, David O'Reilly had mentioned that in creating like the glitches and things like that, and you probably have this in your notes, David, of like, they are real glitches.
Yes.
Like that's how they're, but then they get like rendered down and like, then they are no longer, I guess, glitches because they're kind of intentionally there. Like it's kind of a weird distinction.
And it's
right?
still like in a controlled environment, like, and it's run through compositing software. So it's like, it's like, yeah, I guess it's like a kind of thing. The way that I was trying to wrap my head around it is that it's like the initial glitch is real. Like there is a glitch that you as a human aren't physically painting on what it looks like. They're not specifically making an animation and drawing the lines that look like a glitch or whatever. So that the origin of the glitch is real, but then how they use that glitch and implement it and edit it down, that's what's fake about it. So it's like still real at its core. But then it's, you know, it just comes down to like, if what makes a glitch is that it is like totally unintentional, then by making it intentional at all, like, does that mean it's not a glitch anymore? That's a philosophical question we'll never be able to answer.
And but people have conferences about this stuff, Derek. I mean, I shit you not. Like this is the topic du jour of this world, and it is actually really fascinating and cool. But it does get me to a point that I'm just like, okay.
It does sort of sound like semantics after a while. It's just like,
exactly.
How important is this though?
Exactly.
I think we can all agree that a glitch is a glitch.
Oh my God, I'm done with you.
True.
So the nature of glitch art has been around since we have had digital art at all. And so when you read some of the philosophical conversations, a glitch art is somebody running a film reel and they're accidentally being a pointy surface on the reel that causes a line to go through the film. So to me, that feels like just an error, but that's what glitches are. And so taking that very example, Len Lai's experimental film, A Color Box, which was produced in 1935, is the earliest example of an experimental film that is glitch art.
What?
That's fascinating.
What he did is he took a film strip and painted long, continuous patterns on that film stock without any frame lines to separate any of the frames and with very few splices used to put it all together. Then he used combs and sticks to create patterns on the new stock, attempting to intentionally create the damage from the films that he had seen. Wildly, this was all done as a promotion of the General Post Office, which is the United Kingdom's version of USPS in the States. This was a paid promotional film.
How is that promoting the post office?
Yes, because sometimes he would write on like, get your parcels. You can watch it. I put the link in. We can totally put it in the show notes. It is, there's like some fun jazz music on it. It is, but it's, this is like, yeah, David O'Reilly would have watched this and been like, fuck yeah, I can make it, like, I'm into this for a computer.
So this is kind of like the Apple ad, like
kind of
the post-apocalyptic Apple ad where it's like just making weird art and then also it kind of advertises something. But it's mostly just making weird art.
But like making weird art that went to the Venice Film Festival, no less. And because Tommy's here, I've got to talk about World War II. Nazis protested the film as degenerate art at the Venice Film Festival in 1936. And they made so much noise that the film had to be stopped because of their disruption. One of many cultural capitulations that was done to Europe from the Nazis, which empowered them and emboldened them and, led to World War II.
It sucks that they stopped the film, but I love that they hated it.
Yeah. Oh,
that makes me feel so happy that they hated it.
Hang on to the notion of degenerate art, because we're going to come back to that in just a second. Mm-hmm. I found a great, like, really boring looking book by a man named Michael Benecourt, who wrote the book Glitch Art in Theory and Practice, where he describes the like 5 methods of glitch art, which is manipulating the data, misaligning the data and its compiler, making the hardware fail, misregistering what is supposed to be interpreted by the hardware through its software, and then finally distortion, changing the medium that we engage with it. So like tweaking the speakers or tweaking the screens that we view these things on. Right. But more modern dialogue about this is, does it look wrong or does it feel wrong? Which we already kind of covered accidentally.
Sure.
But it's worth noting that modern glitch art is deployed in many subversive, punk, and queer spaces. So you're going to see this in zines, you're going to see this in conversations, art installations, the kind of places that we roll in. And there is an artistic motif that was captured really nicely by Andy Shabar in her article, or their article, Queer Alt Delete, Glitch Art Against the Surveillance System. Get it. I tried to do you justice, Andy. That there's an artistic motif about using glitch art in queer spaces, about being, quote, wrong, and that being, quote, beautiful.
I love that.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool. And I mean, a lot of the subversive punkness of like glitch art, I do think kind of fits in with what a lot of these animators, involved with this show were sort of intending to do, right? So
Yeah. So I don't know. I had a lot of fun digging into that and learning more about glitch art. As somebody who programs things, I don't like glitches because they feel raw. Because it feels like I've done something wrong as the programmer. But now that I at least know that it's a bug, if somebody eventually plays a game that I make, and they're like, "Hey, the character wasn't moving correctly," I'll just be like, "You had an artistic experience."
I love that. Yeah, thank you. I didn't know quite the history of glitch art, but I love like what did they call it? Degenerative art?
It's degenerative. I mean, that sort of feels like our thing as a group. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
love fucking being degenerates. It's great. It's so much fun.
Hell yeah. And I will say too, I don't know how much of David O'Reilly's stuff y'all consumed prior to recording this episode, but I mean, I watched a handful of his shorts, and I didn't watch some of them all the way through. Some of them are a little bit like more like intense than others.
Sure.
But there is a definitely a through line that you can see going into this episode of just like how he approaches things, and I thought it was really cool to just really feel his like artistic presence throughout this entire episode, considering he got to just run everything.
Yeah. Seriously.
His compilation, Please Say Something, which is about a cat and mouse who are like a couple, but they like struggle to be together in like modern times, was so moving. But also then I was like, oh yeah, you made this episode of Adventure Time. Like it felt very connected to that.
Yeah. I watched that one too. And it was like, very it's poignant, it's moving, it's dark, and it just has like all the DNA of this. He also did a U2 music video that also was designed by John Klassen.
It's weird, Derek.
I think I'm saying his name right, but if not, it's a glitch. The famous storybook author or artist, John Klassen, who does some of this. I might have just boiled down his entire work to something that I knew. I don't know if he is a famous storybook artist, but
I only know the name because I had to look him up for this. I did not know him before this.
This is all new to me. So
you would know the image, Derek. It is the I Want My Hat Back. The book. I'll put it in the chat just for you to see. But I feel like you have seen that. You have to have seen that before.
We're going to keep talking about O'Reilly, obviously, but I do want to say that just because I pointed us at Siebert's website earlier, O'Reilly's website is also a trip because it is meant to feel like you are visiting a glitchy 1990s webpage. In that information is incorrect. You hover over things, they do the wrong thing. All the letters of his name are the links to his socials. It is...
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
It is a bizarre fucking experience.
I love it. It also reminds me of like early
GeoCities.
early internet website too, where it's just kind of like it's very much like bare bones, but also like there's like 3D animation going on in the background. It's great.
But yeah, I mean, talking about O'Reilly, with the making of this episode, how he got involved with it was essentially that like Pendleton Ward was a fan of O'Reilly's short films, so like O'Reilly was in his view already. Ward had actually gotten in touch with O'Reilly back in 2010, like very early into Adventure Time's run, you know. But I think O'Reilly was already busy making the external world at the time, so he couldn't do it then. But then about a year later, he moved to LA, ran into Ward again, and it's sort of like, hey, you want to collab like we said we might want to do before? So then they start working on this, I think around like 2011, 2012, to develop this episode. O'Reilly said he was given complete creative freedom by Ward. He said in an interview with Rhizome that, he was like, I would have been happy to animate one of the regular writer's storyboards. Like, they're really good. But he says, quote, he really wanted me to do all of that stuff myself. I can't think of a precedent for that. It may be the only animated show in history to let a total outsider write and direct an episode.
I love it. Like, just why not? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I get like, I get the risks for it. I'm sure this was probably like a little bit more of an expensive episode to do because of the 3D animation, but like, I mean, it's also just kind of like it's such a interesting thing that like nobody else is really doing, right? Like to just let someone come in and have complete creative control like that.
I don't know if you did, Derek, but I actually didn't find any citation around this being expensive. I actually think that this might have been like on budget.
Yeah, well, because if
interesting.
you think about it, it's all kind of like, I don't know. They're not hiring a bunch of new people. It's one guy doing kind of everything, and then the studio animating it like they would, So, and it's still ultimately only like 11 minutes. So like, but yeah, I don't know. But you're right. I didn't read anything either way about the cost for it. But it is just like, I don't know. It is kind of feel like it would be the dream if you are a showrunner and you have the power to just contact people. Like if you're a fan of an artist, contact them and be like, I'm a fan of you. Do an episode of my show. Like it is kind of weird that doesn't happen more often, you know?
Well, it does happen for like directors. Like we hear about showrunners doing it for directors all the time, but that's not this. Like
that's different. Yeah.
You don't hire someone to come in and direct and then it suddenly looks much different than House Style for like Bones. But like this is so different.
It's an O'Reilly short film in
exactly.
Adventure Time, essentially.
Exactly.
Like that's the difference.
Yeah, and part of me wonders too, like this feels a little bit in the DNA of like the Frederator Studios, style, not to that extent, obviously, because they're still making like the full show, but like having the number of episodes that they do where they bring in guest animators and things like that, like it really feels like it's like kind of almost going back to the roots of how this started too.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's so true.
Your money guy is the person who like throws money at things that he thinks are like cool and possible. So you're probably right, Tommy. I didn't even consider that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. O'Reilly said in that Rhizome interview that like, they obviously they had technical hurdles. It wasn't super easy to do this, but they said that like the glitch part actually isn't hard. Like making a stylistic glitch is pretty easy. He does it all the time. And then doing good character animation like that is what's a little more challenging. And then what's really, really challenging is doing that stylistic glitch over good character animation.
Yes.
Because, if like doing a glitch thing on like an already crudely animated thing, like that's one thing, but like these character designs are supposed to look like a good CGI rendering of what Adventure Time already looks like. So like that is its own level of complexity. I think that's a little bit different. For how the glitches work, we talked. I think we've talked a little bit around this, but in this episode, O'Reilly describes it in that Rhizome article. Essentially, the idea with this one is that like the glitches are meant to be spreading, right? So like they all begin locally, like inside of objects that are in the episode, and then they were built to sort of spread out until they become part of the scene itself. So they would generate a ton of sprites that had random pixels that would move outwardly, create these colorful flourishes that we associate with video compression.
Yeah.
And also the glitches would sort of present as part of like modifications to single points on 3D models wireframes. So like the Super Mario 64 intro screen, like when you see it with the donut guy that's selling like, oh, my face.
My
like
favorite.
You see it there.
My favorite. Like, and that's one where like that is a glitch that I could get to happen in a game, where I design a 3D model. 3D models are all vector art, so it's not a drawing. It's the idea that there's so much math between this space and this space. But like, what if, oops, the computer missed a couple lines of binary and it just shot out into the ether, and that's what happens with my face donut guy.
Yeah,
and I think that mixing the sort of visual appeal of the pixels with the like wildly sharp ways that glitches present in wireframe 3D models is it's so incredible, because the video compression of all makes it look so soft almost, and then the pointy is like pointy.
yeah. I mean, and reading the interview with with O'Reilly is so interesting, because like I'm not in this zone at all, so they use a lot of words that I'm like, sure, okay, it sounds like that's a word that they use a lot. Like painterly, like he uses the word painterly a lot for the way the compression looks like when video codecs are corrupted on purpose. That's what is commonly referred to as data moshing. But that's when it looks like sort of these painterly like glitches. He says that it's coming from a codec trying to use motion data over a static image, so that it's sort of pushed and smudged, leaving these colorful trails and blotches around them.
Yeah. I didn't want to get too into it when I was going over some of the background of glitch art, but essentially one of the ways that you can make glitch art is by taking a file that is meant to be read in a software that reads audio, like our podcast recording, and opening it up in a software that is meant to deal with images, which the computer will not let you do. Like, there are all these safeguards to stop you from doing that, but people who do glitch art don't use those kinds of softwares. Right. And so you go in there and you paint in the audio file and then reload it back into the audio editor and see what the new ones and zeros that you made painting it made as sound. And this is now the tether. I can't go any further with you because I barely understand the words I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I can grasp the general idea of what that means, but there is a level of like complexity that I can't wrap my head around. And I think you do kind of have to be a certain type of person to be able to understand that computer language, I think.
Truly.
It's really, I mean, I love the like concept behind it too, because it really is like, you know, doing things the wrong way to get a result. Yeah. Like there's like this like,
I love that.
Almost, it's like, it's very experimental. It's
very punk
like,
rock.
It is very punk rock. It's very like what can I do to like mess this up?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like having that kind of like mindset of like, how do I like actually just screw this up so bad that like it turns into something else is like, I don't know. That's always kind of inspiring to me of like, you know, what if I brought in like this podcast file into the wrong program? Like, what could I actually do, and what is the outcome? And like, sometimes it's just not going to be anything. It's going to just be, you know, a garbled mess. But like when you start learning how to play in that space, a space that is intentionally messing things up, I just really think that's really cool.
Just the core of just like breaking rules to make art. Like, I fucking love that in this field. And it's like glitch art is like literally what that is, like in every possible way.
Yes.
Yeah, rules.
Apparently for like the big stuff, once the scenes were fully animated and rendered, then the global full frame glitches were done. And then they also added some JPEG corruption on top of that. So like the battle scene at the end, like that, a lot of that was sort of, I guess, manually added on top of it to make it even more corrupted.
Yeah.
Also, this episode, O'Reilly isn't the only like new person involved in this. So music is done outside of the usual crew as well. So sound effects were done by guest Dutch sound engineer Bram Mindersma. And then the outro music during the credits is an 8-bit song called About That Time. It was made specifically for that episode by rapper and DJ Flying Lotus, who was a friend of O'Reilly. And in fact, they originally were going to plan on Flying Lotus to do like to have a completely different score for a completely different intro to the episode. He even sent over some tracks during production. They just ran out of time and money, so all he was able to do was the end credits song.
I didn't know that about the intro song.
The end credit song slaps though. So,
it's so good.
I wish there was more.
Yeah. I just thought this was an interesting, I didn't really know a good place to put this, but in that Rhizome interview, it's a thing that I'd never really thought about, but O'Reilly is talking about like, and this was an interview from 2013, so I would be interested in like what his thoughts are now in the 2020s. I'm just going to read his quote because I think it's really fascinating. He says, "Glitch in its current incarnation will date like everything else. It's a motif associated with JPEG and DivX compression, and we won't be using those formats forever. In the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of analog errors being explored, and the errors in the 2020s will probably look a lot different."
Yeah.
Which it's funny. I never really thought of that, but it's like, yeah, like analog, like, you know, VHS, like errors that, like, you know, analog horror, for example, is its own specific thing that looks that way because that's what VCRs like would, you know, that those are the errors that would happen on VCRs, that would happen on degraded VHS tapes, for example. Like, that's very different from this sort of glitch art that we're looking at here, that, yeah, like he was saying, associated with like JPEG compression and shit like that. But like eventually, and nowadays, we are looking, you know, we're going to be using different sorts of platforms and software and file types. And like, I feel like maybe the evolution now was at the beginning of the 2020s, like AI art, like what DALL-E would sort of shit out that looked really, really weird, because we all kind of found a lot of joy out of how weirdly surreal early DALL-E art was with the prompts. And I think that could have been the route that it went down, but then there's so much other corporate shit and environmental shit and plagiarism shit wrapped up in what AI is now that like it would be kind of anti-punk rock to use that for your art, you know? But that does, it is an interesting food for thought, like, of what the equivalent of glitch art is going to be looking like in the next like 10 to 20 years, you know?
Yeah. The interviews with glitch artists around the like loss of JPEG as a preferred image format is so wild, because I only know people who like work in like design to make things like pretty, I guess. Not that glitch art isn't pretty, but like JPEG is universally hated among people who like work in like advertising and marketing and promotions and stuff, because it's kind of a shitty file format. But then there's like these people who are like, no, it was our shitty file format. Don't let go of JPEG.
Yeah, I'm struggling to like, it's one of those things where it really is, you won't know what it is until you see it, right? Because like until someone, whatever the new, you know, video format or whatever the new next thing is, like we won't really know how to break it until someone breaks it, right? And like what that is actually going to end up looking like. So it is kind of this fascinating thing where it's like, yeah, we're not going to know what it is until it actually someone starts doing it, like, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, it's really cool. Glitch art's fucking cool. Glitch art's so
cool.
interesting.
It's so cool.
It's so cool.
I wasn't expecting going into this episode like thinking in that way. It was just sort of like, oh yeah, they made a funny episode where there's lots of glitches. Like, we know what glitches are, but it is fascinating how deep it is and how much there's such an interesting sphere of it in the art world that like I didn't know really. I guess I knew was a thing because I knew glitch art was a thing, but it never occurred to me how like deep it runs, you know, like how much there is to dig into with it until we started talking about this. It's so cool.
And I think outside of this episode and then all the research that I've done, the only places I was ever exposed to it were like at art installations that were like lesbian run, truly and honestly. Like I'm not even going to give it the whole queer community. I think it was just hot lesbians who were doing like this wildly subversive art, and glitch art was part of that, and that was really cool.
Yeah,
that rolls.
It's really cool.
Adventure time! Come on, grab your friends. We'll go to very distant lands. We'll take the dog and then the human. The fun will never end. It's adventure
all the glitch stuff I think is such a fascinating conversation. The episode itself, plot wise, there's really not that much going on in this one. It really is like it is really a playground to play with the concept of what if the world you were in was glitching out and you were self-aware of the glitches that were happening to you. That is the concept for the plot for this episode, which is such a fucking cool way to go at it. And I think too, for the gimmickiness of it, it is a really cool idea that it's like, it literally begins with just an immediate shift from the opening credits. You are introduced to like, this is going to be different because the opening credits are fully designed in CGI, 3D CGI, fully designed. It is a like pretty much perfect, recreation of the 2D animated version. They're not doing weird glitches and stuff in that intro. Except are they? Did I miss that?
Well, there is.
I would excuse you to think that maybe your media was buffering because that's what it looks like. But if you and you have to like give yourself permission to be like, oh no, it's just not my shitty internet, because that was my immediate first thought. I was like, God damn it, because what I have to do is go out of the app and close the app and reopen the app in order to get it to not do that. And then I think it was a second or third rewatch that I was like, "Oh, David, you fucking idiot!"
They got me.
It's so minor.
Got me. I didn't notice it.
It's so minor.
I would have just assumed that it was my video buffering because that's what it always does anyway. So.
And it's exactly what it looks like, Derek. Like, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, it was a glitch, but like we experience it every day, not artistically.
Yeah, and it's so funny to me because it's like. That is an experience that like so many people with this episode have of like just watching it, and like even me, like I was like, like the first time I saw it, because I saw it on streaming, was like rewinding it and just seeing, and so I was curious like what, and I couldn't really find anything about this, but like what viewers watching it live on like Cartoon Network, right, like would have thought about it, but it is a glitch that like I think works in both streaming services and cable, right? Because like I think even cable TV would like have like a little bit of a glitch sometimes, or like fragment the image or something like that. And I it's so funny like how many times people are like, I just thought my app was like not working right, and it's like, no, it is intentionally in the actual opening credits of the episode, and I think that's so fucking
They got me. I love it. That's
sorry,
so
Derek.
funny.
Oh, I love that happened.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, you go from that, and then, obviously the episode is animated, differently. You're seeing that. It's like, oh, well, okay. They're doing CGI animation style. That's funny. I also think that they get right immediately to this episode's core being about like that's the weirdness of like computer animation, because what Finn and Jake are doing at the beginning are playing on their computer, doing weird MS Paint painting and animation of Ice King, very reminiscent of like Octocat type stuff, just like weird abstract MS Paint drawings, like immediately going into like David O'Reilly's whole MO.
And so it's funny because I think that the very nature of watching Adventure Time is that like sometimes bodies move in ways that our bodies do not move because it is an imaginary world. It is different than our world. And so Jake the dog literally is a shapeshifter. And so Jake does his shapeshifting thing right at the beginning to like get this disc for them to explore, to like launch the plot. But it's interesting that if I showed this to someone who'd never seen Adventure Time, they would say, oh, that's a weird thing that just happened in this weird episode. And I think that it was very clever and brilliant to use a Jake transformation right in the beginning to retrieve this object. It just moves the plot along. When you are then exploring glitches that are far, far more weird than this sort of accepted part of the Adventure Time reality, which is the Jake of it all.
That's also one of my favorite jokes in the whole episode, which is, I think he says like, did you order a brick? And then he says, oh, false alarm. It's just an email. It's so silly and so nonsensical, but like it also like truly fits into like the Adventure Time like writing style.
Man, I don't have the patience for this animation junk. Whoever does this must have no life whatsoever. Oof! Why did I do that?
Huh? Yo, Finn, did you order a brick?
I don't think so.
False alarm. It's just an email.
But like it also fits into this episode of just being like unsettling.
It's unsettling. And also like Finn commenting on like animators are so boring. Like they don't have any lives and hitting himself in the face.
Yeah.
Why did they do that?
That was great. Now, and I understood that on like my second watch after I watched a bunch of episodes, that is a very Adventure Time joke. Like that is, that is the right amount of call attention to the reality of it all. Okay.
Yeah, but it works in this context of this whole episode is based in the idea that there is like a source code of the universe
that's going to punch
will make you glitch out just like you would if you were as computer generated animation, you know.
We get our big lesson from the episode, which is don't put random discs into your computer. And they watch this video of this person eating their own hair.
It's, first of all, you can watch that whole video on David O'Reilly's YouTube if you would like to. He made an entire video for this of that very specifically. I mean, I think we are all familiar with this, but maybe for like younger viewers wouldn't necessarily know that there was a really big proliferation in our day of like these sort of like shock sites that were made to be things that you would just like link people to or forward to or put in chainmail that were just meant to be like unsettling or gross or weird, and that would make kids sort of tell stories about them and probably make up some creepypasta stuff in their head, or what would become creepypasta eventually, like Goatsy or like Tub Girl or like those videos where it's like really, really quiet for a little bit until a face screams at you and it's like an exorcist looking face, like shit like that. Like he was very much basing it on that. And I think that kids still have that kind of stuff like still now, but I do think that there was something very particularly like that kind of stuff. It just like circulates on TikTok or whatever. It was something I think very weird and special about like you specifically share this website with your friend, or you email them, or, you know, send it through AIM or something like that to go to one place rather than necessarily being like a video that's spread amongst social media. You know, there's something specifically creepy about that.
Yeah, well, it felt more personal, right? Because it was my friend Derek. Even though like Derek posts things online and I see them and like engage with them, but it's much different for like my friend Derek got home from school, logged on to Instant Messenger and sent me this link, and I'm gonna click it. Like the vibe is. If you have never experienced that, I don't know how else to describe it than just to say that it was a much more intimate feeling experience, and that really fed a different type of virality to these experiences. I didn't find this particularly disgusting, but I guess I'm pretty gross. So I didn't watch the full video, but I did see that there were some notes from censors that like you couldn't show more of this than we got to see. And I thought it was fine. Like, she's eating her hair. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think O'Reilly had mentioned like there were some things, like even though he had a lot of creative control over this, there's obviously some stuff that they wouldn't let him do. And I don't know specifically if there was like anything more shocking about the video he was going to do, but I do know that like there were some things that were like cut or like cut down. And yeah, just the whole shock factor of it all. Like the other thing about like some of these things, it was like usually you send it to a friend with like no context, right? Like that was the whole point of like you send them something and you're like, just watch this or just look at this and like check it out. Because once you like some of these things, like once you get the shock out of it, then it's done, right? Like it's like what you have the shock, any future viewings of it is going to be like less and less. But like that first initial shock was very important. And so, you know, the way they construct it in this episode too, I think is very fun, of like it being like literally a cinder block thrown through the window with this disc attached to it, which, you know, I think adds to that kind of level of shock factor. But
yeah, totally.
Well, that of course gives us the glitch. That's where the glitch came from. It was all a machination of the Ice King because Princess Bubblegum said that she'd go on a date with him if they were the last two people around, so he made this glitch. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Now the glitch is out into the world.
Yeah. I do love the entire episode of Princess Bubblegum. Like, I literally never said that. Like, I've never said that. Leave me alone.
Yeah. And you can debate it online however you would like to, but my girl carries around horse tranquilizer darts in a gun that she holds like a queer person holds a gun. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but she's bisexual wielding that pistol, and good for you, Bubblegum.
I love that her response to just like the world glitching out around her is just cock a loaded gun and walk away.
It's so hot too. It is just so incredible.
Yeah.
But then like Jake and Finn are going to save the day. That's the adventure time. Like now the adventure is underway. So now we just get to like have fun exploring the glitch of the world.
Yeah. they still make I think it's really cool too, like they still make sure to include like I don't know how to describe it. It's sort of like the anime inspired like effects and stuff, like when they're jumping around and you see like the background change or whatever, for example. Like it's like the glitch stuff obviously is the star of this episode, but I do think there is something to say about recreating Adventure Time's traditional style as well in the CG 3D poly animation style too. Like that had to be a challenge.
Yes. Yeah. But it looks fantastic. I love every time we're doing like a weird, really just Jake and Finn thing. It always looks so fantastic. And the 2D animated faces that they put on a 3D model for Finn the human in particular are always fantastic. They're always a joy to see on his face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love it. And like even that gets played with, right? Like later on, like as the glitches progress, you get like a kind of weird face that like shows up on Finn at one point. You know, even to the point of like their bodies like starting to. This is like a very like almost body horror type episode as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some frightening stuff with it that they do with that, and like the snake spider combination and stuff. Like, there's some creepy horror stuff that can come out of this episode.
Yeah, I did not love the snake spider. I will not hide my feelings about that. A spider with legs that are snakes, not my thing. But when the town is experiencing the glitch, I want to talk like very specifically here. Here's where we're playing with the idea of like loading assets in a 3D environment and playing with a compiler's inability to do so. And that's when you see walls of houses moving out because that's one part of an asset pack, or pieces of the ground. And so you can almost see how, I'm going to call it a level because that's essentially what we've done, is we've built a 3D environment to like model the characters in, but the level is sort of de-resing out. And where I think that really pays off is that when we solve the problem of the glitch, it rebuilds the way that a compiler would rebuild a 3D environment. They've intentionally or they've slowed it in post. They've looked at the processor and they'll be like, but only load like 1 per second, even though a modern computer could load thousands of these things at once. And that makes it look like the world's getting rebuilt, which essentially is what a compiler does every time you look at something.
Yeah,
I love that.
Cool. It's so cool. It's all stuff that it's like I guess I know that intellectually in my head, but like I don't really think about it because you're so used to it in like video games you play and stuff like that. But it's like it is really cool when you think about it that like computers are just sort of like rebuilding the worlds that you're looking at over and over and over and over again, and like there is a weird existential terror that comes from that too.
Well, would you like it to be more terrifying, Derek? Modern systems of 3D only build it when you're looking at it. That's what freaks me the fuck out. Like it ceases to exist as soon as you turn. I hate that. I mean, I know that none of this is real, but like that freaks me the fuck out.
Yeah, some like uncertainty principle bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I think that, you know, this episode, it's smart too, because the sort of source of the action is venturing into the source code of the universe. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
I did love how much of this was kind of, what was the thing with Ralph, Wreck-It Ralph? Like we were sort of like going through all of the like, we're in a video game, we're like digging down into the source code, things are connected to each other, because at their bases, both of these are written by people who understand computers and understand how assets talk to each other and how they work together. And I did like the sort of like ways in which those concepts ended up in two different properties that happened around the same time that like represented the same things.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it was probably like, you know, it's in like the consciousness of that era too. Like, you know, we're past the point of like where, you know, we're understanding how these things are made. Now it's to the point of like deconstructing and like getting like deeper into like the construction of it. I'm curious. One of the things that stuck with me watching this episode was just how much it didn't remind me of, but it felt very much like Homer Cubed from the Treehouse of Horror episode. Like the venturing into like a digital space and like it being like, especially when they're in the time tunnel, I think is what it's called, or whatever it was, and like the source code, like a lot of that felt almost inspired by Homer Cubed, but I could not think of that like while I was watching this episode.
Did you read the article where the interviewer was trying to bait O'Reilly with that very question, Tommy?
I actually did, and it was funny because I was like, I had that thought independently, and then I saw that, and he just completely went past it.
That was in the rhizome.
Yeah, I think it was the rhizome one.
Right?
Yeah, and it was, when I read it a second time, I was like, wow, this interviewer must have been so sweaty after he did not get this question answered, because when you read it, you're kind of like, eep. Like,
I also, in that interview, the interviewer got, and it might be important to set the record straight too, of like, he was like, this was based on an animation that you did prior, and David O'Reilly was like, no, I made that for the episode, and it just happened to release like a day before the episode came out or something like that, but it was always for the episode, like the person eating their hair. So I thought that was kind of funny that the interviewers kind of started off on Rocky fitting in that article as well.
I wonder if the Homer Cube thing, if for David O'Reilly, or maybe like any like glitch artists like that, if that's the kind of thing where they get annoyed to be asked that, where it's sort of like, where that is for everyone the sort of cultural touch point that they have for any sort of CG weird surreal glitch adjacent sort of thing. It seems just sort of like, I'm not even going to touch that, because like, no, I'm my own artist. I'm not ripping off the Simpsons, asshole. Like, you're not going to, Simpsons already did it to my fucking punk rock glitch.
Exactly.
But also, I was thinking the same thing, Tommy,
like
as you while I was watching it. So like, you know.
But I think you're exactly right, Derek. Like, it's like, maybe at this point in time, maybe not for us because we like grew up with the Simpsons, but like even O'Reilly's, you know, younger than all three of us. Like, now it's just as formative for them as like Steamboat Willie existing and cartoons being a thing is for us. Like, you can't ask an animator today, like, oh, were you inspired by the fact that like cartoons were even made? Like,
that's actually a really good point.
I think that's what it ends up being, and that's why it's more absurdist. But like, it's not surprising that the three of us had it, because was that the first time that I saw a 3D animation? I think it probably was.
Possibly.
Yeah. I don't know, but I think
Toy Story came before that episode.
Okay. Well then.
And like, but
yeah,
on television, you know, I don't know, I think that was around the same time as like Reboot. So like, it was probably a lot of people's first introduction, and seeing characters pre-existing turning into CGI. I think that's what made the Simpsons episode really mind-blowing evil.
100%. Yes.
And I think that's the other like comparative point for this as well, is like, it was very much like you had existing characters that are transitioned into a new format. Also, just got to set the record straight, David O'Reilly is older than me, but
oh, okay. Well, wow, he's in the window then, because he is younger than me. Finn and Jake save the day. So I just, I want to talk about this like ending sequence, because the glitch gets turned up to like not even recognizable number. It is an inhuman sound. But before like the things get the most thing they are, there is this moment where we cut to black and then 1 second later shows up. God. And that lasts for just under 20 seconds.
Really incredible.
And unlike the other glitches we've been doing, at first it's like word art.
Yeah.
That's so funny to me.
It's really funny. And it feels like it's like playing, like that's one, like a lot of this stuff does feel like kind of its own piece. That one feels so specifically playing with this show's sense of humor of doing the like, I mean, there's a 53 seconds later joke in this episode.
Right.
That feels very particularly like pointing to a thing this show often does and then being like, but what if that glitched out? 1 second would actually be 20 seconds. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
like
curious
the idea that,
what like y'all's individual thoughts were on that moment, because especially David, you not connecting with like the randomness of it. That feels like the most random element of this particular episode.
It does.
But it's what Derek said. The nature of a glitch is that things that should process in 1 second take so much longer to process and happen because of overflow or stack errors. And that is what would happen if we were in a computer program and something had fucked up and we'd lost a line of code. Loading errors would happen like that. And that is what made that very funny to me, is that it was like a programming loading error joke.
That's so funny, David, because like I literally did not think about it that deeply and was like, oh, it's just the humor of like 1 second later and then like, we're going to stretch this out.
Like, it says 1 second later, but it's actually more than 1 second later. Isn't that funny? Like, that was my thought process too. So, but I
it's great
love
that it works on those levels. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so clever. I mean, there's a lot of like little things throughout this one. Like the glitchy stuff obviously is the part of it, but like even like there's like a part earlier where they see subtitles and the subtitles are backwards. Like and then they have to read it backwards. Like shit like that is just so funny.
Oh, just incredible. And again, I think that you could have a glitch interpretation of that, which is that normally your characters would have an understanding of what was going on in the situation, and now they don't because of what's going on in here. And so I had so much appreciation of them looking at the words in reverse as if they would normally look at the words going forward.
Well, yeah, and they're normally 2D characters, so like they wouldn't expect that you could walk around and see it.
Oh my god, duh, that makes so much sense. The joke is that it's 3D. That's so fucking funny.
I don't know if that was the intention, but that was kind
definitely the intent. That had to be the intention because they haven't those characters haven't experienced being 3D before. Like that's so fucking funny. That never occurred to me. That's genius.
Yeah.
What? This is not a glitch related thing, maybe unless I'm misunderstanding. What the fuck is with Princess Bubblegum making out with her hand? It's so fucking weird. Like I know I understand that the structure of it is sort of like, I'm the last person on earth. I'm not going to kiss you. I'm going to kiss me instead. But then it goes on for so long and then it's revisited later. It's so weird. It's so fucking weird. Am I missing something there?
That did not work for me. Sorry. That one didn't work for me because it happens like pre-glitch and post-glitch because then there's a bit about Jake's arm is in a relationship with her hand.
So weird.
That was the thing that didn't work for me in this episode.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a glitch. I don't think it's a reference to anything else in the show. I think it's just intended to be unsettling. Like truly,
it definitely is.
It is unsettling.
It's very weird to me as well. I think it is. I think it's fun and it's funny, but it's also just kind of like, it's a little hard to parse like what's actually happening. Y'all might have seen this as well, but just a fun little trivia. Apparently that was cut in Brazil and the UK. And this episode actually in the UK had like the most shaved off of it. There was like 2 minutes shaved off of this episode when it showed in the UK.
No, I normally look for that shit and didn't see anything about that, Tommy. That's amazing.
Fascinating.
I mean,
they cut it. It's like this episode's like 2.5 minutes long. You know?
Right? Yeah.
I was like,
most of the episode is. Yeah, it's the word art.
There's not a lot of fat on any Adventure Time episode, truly. So that's bonkers. Okay, well, be less repressed, British people.
Weird.
Yeah, apparently they also cut I Want to Kick His Boing-a-loings, and yeah, where is he? I Want to Kick His Boing-a-loings too.
That's really funny line, though. So
yeah,
I missed out not having that one.
I at least can get my mind around understanding that censorship. It's dumb and stupid, but I can at least understand it.
Sure.
I guess then the last thing that I really have about the glitch of it all is I did just like how video game cartoony, and none of the episodes I saw, even though I do know that Jake and Finn get into this, had the level of it that this one had, that we really were just like facing a boss at the end. I really, really liked that sequence. I thought it was well done. Ultimately, it was not the way that they were successful, but I thought it was animated beautifully, and they did a really good job.
Yeah. The glitch boss in the sequence is it's really unsettling, but it like works so well, and it's really well animated. That whole ending sequence is just really fun too, because like you just get to like play with the characters like at that point where it's like like Jake losing his arm and like being like I love Righty or whatever he says about it. I can't remember the exact lines.
Let's do it for Righty.
Yeah. It's like they have like a lot of fun, and then the way that they end up beating it is just like it doesn't make any sense, and nor actually should it. Like it just them eating like Finn's hair is what saves the day, and it's like okay, it shouldn't make sense because nothing that happens in this episode makes sense, and it doesn't, which is great.
Gotta get those things out of his stomach.
Hey, Finn! Remember that gross video Ice King sent?
Ugh, yeah.
Yeah! Let's double team these locks!
But it works, and then things are back to normal.
Is that how we have to? If your computer gets a computer virus in real life, you just have to like make the virus throw up somehow.
Yeah,
by showing it something really gross.
I take my shirt off. It 9 times out of 10 fixes the problem.
Aww.
No, I have a beautiful body. Don't come at me with self-positivity. Make it all the time on the internet. No, the correct answer is turn it off and turn it back on.
Yeah,
I do like that the resolution for the villain Ice King becomes clipped between solid objects. That is, which is something that a glitch would allow you to no clip or go through something that has a boundary built into it, and then in the end, when the glitch is resolved, he is resolutely stuck and then mated with a spider snake thing.
Mm-hmm.
So weird.
Normal.
So strange. Yeah, and that also like kind of sticks with a little bit of like the video game of it all too, right? Like you get stuck inside of an object that you're not supposed to be in, and there's no real solve for it, save for like what we just said of like turning it off, turning it back on again sometimes.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. I really I really enjoyed watching this one. It was so fun, and it is like, I don't know. It truly is like nothing else I've ever seen on a TV show before. Just the way that it embraces the glitch of it all. And I do think that there's a version of this episode that could exist where like you don't get David O'Reilly on and they just make it a regular Adventure Time episode that like has the same concept of like, oh no, we're glitching out. And then they, animate some glitches and stuff. And I don't think it would work as well if you were like just traditionally animating glitches. I think it sort of needed to be someone with the brain to make glitch art like in the way that you make glitch art truly, doing an episode built around that, and then it makes it something so special. Because like what other fucking TV has done? Other TV shows I'm sure have done glitches, especially if you're a computer cyber tech based show, but like not like this, where it actually is truly about self-aware characters experiencing what it would be like to have the types of glitches you have actually seen on things in real life before.
Yeah. Truly incredible. What a great recommendation, Tommy.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, the glitch of it all, like, too, like, when you think about, like, the state of the show, like, the number of episodes that they have of the show, and just having, like, I don't know, I guess you could think of it as, like, I can't remember the term that you used, David, but, like, someone hacking into the show to, like, do something, you know what I mean? Even though they were invited, you know? So there's, like, the kind of, like, standout aspect of that, and it, like, also just being not canon, the way it exists in like the show as like a meta thing is kind of like glitchy as well. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, anything else about this Adventure Time episode that we've talked for over 2 hours about for an 11-minute segment of a cartoon?
We covered a whole genre of art.
Totally did. No, I'm not mad. That was not said with disdain. That was more said with like I can't believe we did that.
Neither can I.
That was said more with surprise, but pleasant surprise. I think this is a much fuller episode than anyone could have ever expected this one to be, which I think is really cool.
And I think that if you're looking to understand glitch art, this episode is a very accessible way of getting into it, and gives you a lot of threads to pull on to deepen your experience, especially with O'Reilly's other work. And so I think that if you've been interested by the conversation that we've had, but you haven't seen the episode, start there and then explore his webpage, explore the people who inspired him, look at his CV, which in and of itself is a work of art. Like we truly are talking about some really incredible things. And I think that if you were even tickled a little bit by this, there is a deep world for you to explore and then question like, what is creation in a world with technology?
Yeah, and go find something to break and break it and make your own glitch art.
There you go.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Well, Tommy, stop talking like a nerd and give it to us straight. Where can people find you and everything you're working on?
Absolutely. You can hear me glitching on episodes of my other podcast that I host with my partner Cass. That is Distant Echoes, a Star Wars podcast where we are going through every single episode of every Star Wars TV series in whatever order we please. And then also my other show, which I host with my lovely pal Derek. It is Lee Carvalho's Potting Challenge, a Simpsons gaming podcast. So if you want more a little bit of gaming stuff. We dive into some deep histories into gaming things as it relates to The Simpsons.
Thank you very much, Tommy. Definitely recommend both of your podcasts. Really incredible times, and folks should check those out if they want more of you. This is your 6th time on Gimmicks, so your jacket, I guess, is in the mail.
Yeah, I guess you're the one. Definitely the guest that has appeared the most from the very first episode of Gimmicks too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
well,
thanks
if
for coming
anybody
back.
starts breaking my record, let me know, and I'll pitch another Adventure Time to come on and talk about.
If they break your record, that's just glitch art. So we're good to go there. As for me, you can find me online almost anywhere as Dmuma. That's DMUMA. And I do host a couple other podcasts here on the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. One of them is about mother characters in media. Both Tommy and Derek have been guests before. It is called Are You My Mother? And then my friends Tyler and Marilee are dragging me into a deep ocean of horror by exploring all the things that I felt like I was too scared to find on my own, but I'm protected by the analysis of how gay they all are, and that is called Fear Coded. You can check those out wherever you get podcasts. Derek, what about you? Where can folks find you and the great things you work on online?
Sure, you can find me most places at Derek B. Gale. My other podcast, in addition to Lee Carvalho, is Walloping Web Snappers, where we do deep dives into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made, and Skrionk, where we are going through Godzilla's filmography. I do both of those podcasts with my friend Doug. And also, Doug and I have another project that we're working on, our podcast Falling with Style, which originally was a Pixar movie marathon until we caught up with the Pixar movies that were out. We have a special presentation that is currently ongoing as of right now when this episode drops. Calling it a special presentation because they are non-Pixar movies. It's sort of counter-programming to Win or Lose, since that was a Pixar show that completely cut out a trans character storyline. And so we're doing a series of movies and TV that feature very explicit and intentional queer representation. And most of those are movies and TV that are aimed at families and children as well. So find that on the Falling with Style feed. I think a few episodes will have come out now, and then we have a couple more left as well. Movies like Nimona and Tokyo Godfathers and When Will Wild and things like that. So definitely check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Gimmicks is a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you're looking for other queer media podcasts like all the ones we all just mentioned, check out the full roster of Glitterjaw shows at glitterjaw.com.
And if you want to support this show by giving us a little tip, you can buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/gimmicspod. You can also follow the podcast at gimmicspod on Blue Sky and Instagram, and email us with your questions, feedback, and corrections to gimmicspodcast@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe on all podcast platforms. And until next time, friends, keep being weird.
My face! My beautiful face is back to normal!